The Dolphins are back in the mix. Unbelievable. Greg Cote, a second helping of Greg Cote today. Rece Davis going to join us. Dianna Russini going to join us. The Jets lose. The Mets win. The Yankees win. So I got half my wish yesterday. Greg Cote has stacked books on top of books here. He also has them sitting right in front of my television screens.
Oh, wow. I'm
Yes.
sorry.
That's okay.
Let me move that.
Yeah. But you have stacked a new book on top of you're writing not one, but two books that are going to be released later this year, correct?
No. Pride of a Lion's already out.
Oh, it is?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks
Wow.
for noticing. It's been out
Sorry.
like a year.
That came out like a year and a half ago.
Listen, I'm focused on writing my book. I mean, that's what I'm doing right now. That book comes out late November, Stugotz's personal record book. But you are onto your second book already. I'm jealous.
Yeah, the Back in My Day book comes out October 29th, right before Halloween. Talk about a beautiful Halloween gift.
Yeah.
Order it,
Trick
give
or treat.
it. People, let's make Halloween a gift-giving holiday.
I agree with you, Greg.
Yeah,
That's a great idea. Other than you mean like the Reese's pumpkins and like
Yes.
the Reese's ghosts? Do they make ghosts?
I think they do, yeah. All the
Not they
candy
should.
now is holiday-oriented, which I hate. It started off as just the green and red Christmas, M&Ms with a nut in the middle of it, but now it's everything. It's too much.
Greg's right. I mean, I think that Halloween is a gift-giving holiday. It's just become a candy-giving holiday. And the thing is, thinking about this, the book is the perfect pumpkin stuffer or whatever you'd have, right? Because now so many kids out there have nut allergies and gluten allergies and all this. I don't know many that are allergic to books.
I'll tell you what, I think you're onto something. What you do is you pre-order, on the 29th, you go to your local bookstore.
Right.
I don't know what your neighborhood's like in terms of kid traffic, but buy 100 books and give them out to neighbor kids.
Right.
And enjoy the look on the face of a 5-year-old when you hand him a book. I think it would be just joyful.
When you hand him a book he's never going to read and doesn't care about.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. It would
I
be
mean, I
great.
hate going to a house and they give me a couple of pennies for UNICEF. I can't stand that.
No, I don't like
Right.
anything other than candy when I was a kid.
Right.
You don't want to get anything. I don't want a lottery ticket. Don't give me anything. Just give me candy, and it has to be good candy.
Sure.
Well, hold on. We're arguing that they should be giving your book, though.
Correct.
Well, that's true. The book
Right.
is ideal. That's why we got to turn it into a gift-giving holiday, which it's never been. Other than giving out candy.
Is it possible that back in my day, so like sometimes movies are made like Die Hard, for example, and then people debate, wow, is this a Christmas movie? Is it not a Christmas movie? They do that with Harry Potter's too, like are Harry Potter movies Christmas movies? Is it possible back in my days that Halloween book and you had not considered it?
You know what? I think it's a holiday book.
Really?
Yeah. and
All-encompassing.
And the reason I say that, there's like hundreds of Back in My Days in here. I'm making up that number. There could be 90. But it feels like there's hundreds. And I think all of the major holidays have a Back in My Day. Like I know I did one on Thanksgiving. I think there's one on Halloween. There's one on, Christmas tree buying. So there's a lot of holiday-themed Back in My Day. So I do consider it a holiday book.
I do like the idea of giving a gift rather than giving candy on Halloween. I do. I like that idea.
Yeah.
It's a nice little... It is.
Especially if it's my book.
Well, especially if it's your book, but just any gift.
Yeah.
Probably gifts more geared towards kids.
Right.
Right. But I mean,
another gift that a book is better than a lot of gifts. It's definitely better than the homemade anything.
Mm-hmm.
If don't give me a homemade muffin wrapped in cellophane for a gift, because I don't know where that came from.
Sure.
You know,
Did you say someone gave you a lottery card, like a lotto card, a scratch off?
Ticket.
it's been done. Yeah,
Really?
it's been done.
Huh.
Yeah.
You did that for my dad recently.
Yeah, I know, but it wasn't Halloween. Like,
Right.
yeah, I have a kid knocking at my door expecting candy, and what I'm dropping in there is, a scratch-off ticket.
Yeah. No, somebody gave me like 10. In fact, was it you?
Yes.
You gave me.
I just said that, yeah.
Yeah.
And I parlayed
Mark gave it to
that.
you.
I parlayed that for like $40, by the way.
Mm-hmm. Did you really?
Yeah.
You won $40?
Yeah.
On my
Don't tell
lottery
Stu that.
tickets?
Absolutely.
He's got to look
I
for
mean,
a cut.
I would be pissed if I gave someone a lottery ticket and they won a bunch of money off of it. That's a dangerous game.
I
Well, I
would be.
think when you gave it to him, you said that you were splitting it 50-50, so it sounds like you owe Stugotz 20.
80,
It could
20.
be. I owe him more than
Which,
that.
by the way, 20, Greg, if you want
Right.
to just hand him the book, is what your book costs,
Yes.
coincidentally. So you just hand him
Here
your
you
book,
go.
and I feel like you're good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
$20, Greg. A little pricey for a book.
Yeah, if somebody gives you lottery tickets, what is the unwritten rule on that? Like, do you
Well,
have,
I told you on the front end that if you win the lottery, if you win the jackpot, that we would split it 50-50. You agreed to that.
I don't think I did.
Well, you definitely did.
I think the giver gets 10%.
You also didn't win the jackpot, so.
True.
Wait, how does this work? If you were to buy Powerball tickets, which I think is like, I don't know, $500 million right now, the jackpot.
Right.
If I was to gift Greg Powerball tickets and he won the lottery, how much should I expect to get back?
Okay, let's do it the other way. Should Greg gift you a Powerball ticket and you win the lottery? How much are you going to give Greg?
Nothing.
Okay, there you go.
It has to be prearranged.
It
You
has
have
to
to
be.
have a lottery pact.
Yeah.
What's a
Legal-
fair prearrangement, though?
I think it comes down to the
Depends
character
what
of the
you
man.
agree on.
Yeah, I agree with
With
you,
my
Mike.
friends, it's 50-50.
Really?
Yeah, we have a lottery pact.
If
Oh,
someone
wow.
buys me a lottery ticket and I win, I'll discretionary. I'll have like a discretionary budget for what I give them as a
Right.
thank you.
You'll take care of that.
I agree with that.
Right.
This agreement needs to be on paper.
Well, I do this thing when I go to Publix or a gas station and I buy the lottery tickets. I always tell the lady or the guy, I say, hey, if I win, I'm coming back. I'm going to retire you.
No way.
I say it every single time. And I say, I hope you got it on film.
You don't mean it, though.
I don't mean it, but it just feels like something you should say when you're purchasing lottery tickets.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys caught on to this, and I'm wondering if Jess meant to say it, but she said that she has a 50-50 pact with her friends, plural, meaning it seems as though you have a 50-50 pact with multiple people, which is a very heady play should they ever win the lottery. Now, how should you win the lottery? I don't know how you're going to deliver 50% to multiple people.
I just mean like equal split. Like if it's 4 people, then 25-25.
You're doing it the
25.
wrong way. You got to do
25.
50-50 with all your friends. Because you're likely
Like I get
never
50
gonna
and then
win.
they all split the remaining.
No, like you just say, look, I'm just doing this with you, 50-50, just the two of us. Just
Wink,
between
wink.
us gals. Yeah, you give a little wink, and then you get the 50 should they win. And then if you win, you're never going to win. So you never have to deliver 50% to like 6 other people.
But if it's $500 million, like I feel like I would, because what would I do with all that money? I'm going to give it to people.
You could find things to do.
Yeah, you could.
Yeah.
You
Notre
can give
Dame
it to
would be
me. I mean, I'll take it off your hands.
Yeah,
We
I would
have
take
a
some.
national championship in South Bend within the year.
Yeah.
Mike, if you won the lottery, would you take care of all the people on this show? $500 million.
On the show.
Yes. Yes. Like you would throw Roy a couple of
There's
million.
talent.
I mean, I guess. It
Gino
depends
Fuentes.
on.
Never thought of it?
I've never thought about ever winning the lottery.
How much is Robert getting?
Great
I
question.
can kick him like a good $350.
Right. That seems fair.
The
Yeah.
look on Mike's face is going, oh, hell no. I ain't giving anything to anybody.
Just no football and women's basketball eat first.
Where is your business taking you this week?
Business trip to Louisville, Kentucky.
Oh, that's a short trip. That is a
Bourbon
nice
Trail.
town. Nice town, yes.
All right.
It's going to be like 40 degrees.
Oh, I'm so jealous.
Huh.
Nervous? Are you nervous about that game?
I think it's a tricky spot. I think
is.
if you watch the last 2 Miami games, you can't take any opponent for granted. Miami's only a 4.5-point favorite. This is when looking at the schedule at the beginning of the year and trying to predict spots where Miami could slip up. A lot of people were saying this is one of those tricky spots. So I think what college football has taught everyone this year is that if you're in a power 4, you can't take anybody lightly. There's been a lot of talent that's been distributed, and maybe not evenly, but certainly distributed more evenly than it was several years ago. So no, I'm not taking this one for granted. I think this one could be dicey.
Stugotz thinks he's slick. You're going to ask Mike about Miami? You think we're not going to talk about the Jets? What do you think? You think he just...
We've gone way too long without hearing the doink.
I have shifted all my attention to the Mets and Major League Baseball because the baseball playoffs are great.
I
mean,
could tell what
they
you were
are.
doing as soon as this show started. He's
Yeah.
like, he's not going to mention the Jets.
I quickly said it. Let's get to the play Mike was talking about. It's a play that summarizes what it's like to be a Jets fan.
Good snap, good hold. Kick is off the upright again.
The best sound in sports.
What, the doink?
Yeah.
Really?
Oh, it's great.
I mean,
Yeah. I mean, not if it's your team.
Right.
But
Is that the isolated doink?
Yeah, because Joe Buck kind of steps on it, so like it's a little abbreviated, but yeah.
Can you play the full thing again? Because it's the loudest doink I have ever heard
is.
during a football game.
Good snap, good hold. Kick is off the
it's ridiculously loud. It's meant to humiliate the kicker, that doink.
No, Greg is right. It's funny every single time,
It is.
unless it's your team.
Yeah.
It's funny if it's your team. I got to be honest.
It is. The only thing funnier in football than a doink is the fat lineman trying to run for a touchdown
Yeah.
and falling at the 3.
So the Jets.
Why can't they score? You like it when they fall at the three?
It's funnier.
I like it when they score and celebrate. You don't want to see the celebration?
Not really. Not since Refrigerator Perry.
Huh.
Yeah, the fat guy celebration died with him, as far as I'm concerned.
Icky Woods.
But was he considered fat?
I think he was.
Yeah?
Mike, Icky Woods was considered, I don't want to say fat, he was chubby,
I miss
right?
fullbacks.
Yeah.
Yeah, fullback.
It was a different time, yeah.
Now they all look like Juszczyk, if they're still around. Icky Woods,
Yeah.
little belly on
They
him.
have gotten good looking. Alec Ingold for the Dolphins, good looking.
Yeah.
You have to be. You have to be to play fullback.
Good-looking fullbacks, huh?
Greg Zuerlein signed a $8.4 million contract.
Yeah. Legatron.
Yeah, I mean, the ball looks different leaving his foot. There's no question. Are the laces in? What is happening with this guy? He's terrible. He's terrible.
He is terrible. Jets lose 23-20 last
And
night.
somehow Aaron doesn't blame him.
Oh, that's
It's
who
the
I was
officials.
talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, do you have the sound of Aaron blaming everyone but
Oh,
himself
my
in the post-game press conference? Because it's really frustrating. You finally get a quarterback. Like now he's past his prime. He's old. He's coming off an Achilles injury. But we have lost the last 3 games by a total of 10 points.
Yep.
And Aaron Rodgers was supposed to fix that.
He's got to be the positive difference in close games.
I've been losing 3 games by a total of 10 points my entire life as a Jet fan, and this was the guy that was supposed to come in and change all that, and he hasn't. And it's been really disappointing to watch. It's been really disappointing as a Jet fan. Here is Aaron Rodgers after the game blaming everyone but himself.
Can you just talk a little bit about the penalties tonight?
Yeah, it seemed a little ridiculous. Some of them seemed really bad, including the roughing the passer on me. That's not roughing the passer. Might as well play sarcastic ball if we're going to call those things. And I thought the one on Kinlaw was not roughing the passer either.
You got to love that, though.
Yeah, I do give him credit for that.
Like, what he's doing there is saying, hey, even the penalty on me, which benefited our team, bad call.
Right.
Yeah, the rest were bad.
Right. I mean, basically, he's taken all the heat off himself.
Yes.
With no cause.
Yep.
I mean, at some point, maybe I'm overboard on this, but I've been saying it for a while now. At some point, Jets fans have to say, you know what? Maybe the Aaron Rodgers experiment isn't working. And you can't blame him for the Achilles last year, but you can sort of blame him for losing all these close games.
Defense looks worse. It's weird because they had a pretty good defensive coach that was handling his side of the ball.
Yeah.
The video that we didn't play was him throwing Mike Williams under the bus.
Yeah.
Because I'm glad he clarified that, because on the field you didn't really know that Aaron had an issue with what happened there at all.
Right.
He was purely professional there. I saw an Instagram comment on his Mike Williams portion. It's like, credit to him. He can still make 2 throws very well. Hail Mary and under the bus.
Well, that's the other thing. The game was closer than it appeared because they had a lucky play at the end of the first half. Otherwise, it's 20-10 going into halftime.
Look, they missed kicks, but also that Sky Judge thing with the tuck rule, that could have gone either way. That looked like he brought it down and it was a fumble. Like, if that was a call on the field, I don't know. That could have gone either way. It's just, that's a bad loss, dude. This Trey Wingo tweeted it out. Through 6 games, Zach Wilson under center scored 113 points for the New York Jets. The 6 games this season with Aaron Rodgers under center, Jets have scored 113 points. He was supposed to be the difference. You watched the Jets last year. It was very clear they were being held back by their quarterback. So you bring in the highest rated quarterback of all time. And when it comes to QB rating, he's still, we'll see after last night, but he still had the edge over Patrick Mahomes. And he's just not the same guy. And we've mentioned it a couple of times. We all had it in our brains as all these guys got older and were putting up numbers when they were older. Tom Brady kind of warped the aging process for quarterbacks in that we thought that, Drew Brees, once he hits 40, he'll be the same guy. Aaron Rodgers, once he hits 40, he'll be the same guy. No. There's 2 guys that have been able to, be really good and surprise people with their age. Brett Favre, who actually is, you want to talk about quarterback rating, he's rated worse than Nick Foles all time, but he had a great season with the Minnesota Vikings. And Tom Brady won a Super Bowl in his mid-40s, beating the greatest quarterback of all time, arguably, and Patrick Mahomes when it's all said and done. I just think that we have to recalibrate and understand that, of course, Aaron Rodgers isn't as good. Historically, there's only been one guy that remained good.
Right.
Yeah, and
Well, Joe Flacco as well.
But Joe Flacco has a lot less tread on his tires too.
Right, but you're right. Tom Brady is the anomaly. LeBron is the anomaly in the NBA. The rule of thumb remains: if you're 40 years old as a pro athlete, chances are 90% you're not going to be nearly as good as you were 5-7 years earlier.
Anyone else think it's a slippery slope? This whole like the eye in the sky can just come in at any time and change a play, because it's just. Using your challenges, like now it's just like, oh, I don't have to use my challenge here because the eye in the sky decided that play was wrong. And it's like sometimes I have to use my challenge, but sometimes the officials are just going to change the call. It just seems very subjective when the eye in the sky is changing
It's
calls.
also a lot easier to follow when that happens on television. When you're in stadium and they just rule something there, you don't have a real explanation, and it leads to a very confusing experience for people that are in that stadium trying to follow along.
A slippery slope to what, Chris?
I'm just saying because one team can say, "Oh, that play was just like I'm pretty sure they did that with that throw, like the
tuck." Yeah, it was a sky judge
rule,
situation.
The refs just like
Buffalo tried to
the
challenge.
calls changed,
But I like a judge presiding over everything and telling you when they got it wrong.
But
Isn't
then
it better to not have to use your challenges because they're getting the calls right, though?
It
and
was.
also, it's faster, I would say. Like, I think it was the touchdown also. The Sky Judge was like, came in, said it was a touchdown. We moved on. Like, it wasn't, we didn't have to go to commercial.
Buffalo was trying to hyperanalyze it, though. And if you hyperanalyze and you stay there, you can start talking yourself into different things, whereas it was an immediate ruling. And Buffalo tried to challenge, and the officials explained to him, you keep your challenges. This was one of those plays that were automatically reviewed. Source, just trust me, bro.
It just seems like we're going to run into a time where they're going to make a change, and I don't know. It just seems like a slippery slope to me.
You don't like someone presiding over football is essentially what you're saying.
I just think it seems very like I either want all replay to be from the eye in the sky or there's challenges. Like it just seems weird that you have these
If you
challenges.
have an eye in the sky, why would you need a challenge flag in your sock?
Right. I mean, I'm cool with it all just being, let's get the call right. But it just seems like a slippery slope that we're going to run into, like in a big playoff game, the eye in the sky is going to change a play, and the other team's going to be like, what the
Ultimately, like, the right team won last night.
Yeah.
New York just didn't make enough plays. So there were
They had plenty of opportunities, Mike.
Two football fields of penalties in that game. It was weird because the game was tight throughout. Interesting things happened, but the game flow was such that you couldn't actually say, man, this game is awesome, huh? And it's a shame because, you have Aaron Rodgers fighting for his team's life on Monday night against a bitter rival. That's something good that the sport has going for it, and yet everyone kind of had the same experience watching it, which is like, man, this is a little laborious. I can't – it's late at night, and there's no flow to this.
There's no flow, and it doesn't take 22 – penalties for there to be no flow. I think flags are an epidemic in the NFL right now. It's to the point now where I was watching a game, I forget the game, but the first flag was like late in the first quarter, and the announcer was making a big deal out of, oh, finally, we almost got a quarter in without a flag. I find it's tough to watch the NFL now because when there's a big play, when your team has a big play, a completion or whatever, you're immediately holding your breath because you almost expect a flag to nullify half of the great plays in the game now. I don't know whether the officiating is going overboard or whether the play is that sloppy around the league, but I find it tough to watch the NFL more than I used to.
Aikman was saying exactly what you were saying, and he's like, come on, so many penalties, let's look at these. And then they look at them, and they're all penalties.
Yeah.
And even he was just like, I
think the one was the roughing the passer on Rodgers that extended the drive. That
was bad, yeah.
They said that he put his body weight on him, but
Which he did.
He did. Yes, he did. So, fine, but it looked like he was trying not to, and then
he sacked a quarterback. He made a tackle. He's playing football. How can you flag him 15 yards for that? It's ridiculous.
That was a funny moment where the TV official came in and was explaining the rule to Aikman. He's like, no, I got it. I don't like it.
Get the rule. Don't like it. Yep.
It's a tricky thing because sports fans love to complain. That's a penalty. That's a foul. And when we have a game that has too many of those, we're saying, stop it. Too many of those. Mm-hmm. It's hard to please everybody. But that game, I think, did have the most penalties in it so far this NFL season.
As a gambler, though, a lot of times we love these penalties because if you're on one side and you're hoping for the flag. So 50% of the time, I'm happy that these flags.
Yeah,
are
but
here.
50% of the time you're not.
I love offensive penalties. I like a holding, and when I need like yards,
Oh.
it's like, all right, let's move that back 15 yards. That's more yards we got to gain here. This is great.
I just love like seeing the players. Like I've done this before about how I love to guess what the penalty is. So like
Right.
when you start seeing the movement, you can kind of tell before the call, like they're moving backwards. That's on the offense. And man, when you need that offensive penalty and they start moving backwards, better than sex.
It's weird. I try to impress my wife by telling her what the call is going to be before they make the actual call. And it's just by placement of the flag.
And who threw it?
When's the last time that impressed your wife?
She's not listening
Like
to
at
me.
what point?
I'm
When
just
in this
doing-
relationship did she's like, wow,
Yeah,
John knows
not-
football.
not once.
Because I feel like
Yeah.
like 1987 was probably when that ended.
Illegal formation. How'd you know?
Right. She's not impressed at all. I'm not even certain she's listening. I'm doing it anyway because, I need to talk to somebody when I'm watching football, and Abby's there.
Yeah.
And so,
I mean, it is the least impressive thing in the world to be like, that was a hold when they throw it by the line of scrimmage after a big run.
I know, look at sometimes. I'm like holding 10 yards other way.
Is that how Lee wooed you?
No, because what?
It's like an illegal shift. I'm like, whoa, babe.
I probably
This is the
saw
one.
the illegal shift before he did. Are you asking if that's how I wooed Lee? That's a better question.
You're telling Lee what the calls are?
Yeah, exactly. We're arguing with each other like, that was an illegal shift. No, it wasn't.
I don't like it when the announcer usurps the referee. I like the referee to announce to me what the penalty was. I don't like it when they
You want a
know it.
clean call. You want the announcer to lay out.
Yeah, I don't like it when the know-it-all announcer goes, immediately goes, the center, Flackman, was holding on that play. Who knows that?
They do.
Who's watching?
They have spotters.
They're always right.
They have
Who's watching
spotters.
the center, though?
They're spotters that are feeding them this information.
Yeah, too much information. Too soon. TMI, TS.
Huh.
To miss it. Right? Too much information.
You're
too
right.
soon.
Yes.
Nailed it.
Yes.
Let the referee
Yes.
tell
To
us.
miss
That's how
it.
you spell
Yeah,
it, yes.
to miss it. Wait, Mike, this is interesting. Are you saying that Aaron Rodgers is done? Like, flatly, that's it? You are done with Aaron Rodgers?
I'm not done with it. Aaron Rodgers. I've kind of pointed out that for several seasons he's not the same dude, and everyone kept telling me that they expected him to be a clear and obvious upgrade. And by everyone, I mean a lot of people on this show, Dan included.
Right.
And show me the numbers. He hasn't thrown a 300-yard game in a long time. He was always kind of a cautious quarterback, even though he had this rocket arm. He played the game pretty safe, and as he ages, he's only going to play it more safe. And the only time that guy throws deep is at the end of a half or if the opposing team jumps offside. He's pretty careful. And then sometimes he doesn't understand, like he did with Davante Adams, throwing to a double-covered Davante Adams in that playoff game, his last game as a Packer. Exact same thing happened last night. Mike Williams, granted, he had an open receiver, whether he underthrew it. According to him, Mike Williams ran the wrong route. He's supposed to know what he's supposed to do there, fine. But he had a wide open receiver underneath for an easy 20-yard chunk play to get them in field goal range. This is who Aaron Rodgers is. I don't think he's ever going to go hop in the time machine and be the guy that we were obviously saying, wow, this dude might be the most talented, skilled thrower of the football we've ever seen. It looks so different. I just don't think he's that guy anymore.
But
I don't even think he's not Pro Bowl level. He might not even be top half in the league right now.
He's below average right now. He is. I'm not looking for the Aaron Rodgers of 3 and 4 seasons ago who, 37 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. I'm not looking for the touchdowns. I'm looking for him to not throw interceptions.
Yeah.
And he is tied for 5th right now in the NFL through 5 weeks in interceptions. He's thrown 5 already, and it seems like every game as he's trying to get the Jets a victory, final drive, Aaron Rodgers throws what is a bad interception. And so I'm not looking or expecting Aaron Rodgers to be the guy he was 3 seasons ago, 4 seasons ago. I would just like him to be good.
Yeah.
I'm not asking him to be great. I just need him to be good. And he hasn't been good, and that's been disappointing.
I think part of it, too, is that, look, Garrett Wilson, he's an okay receiver. He's pretty good. Quit putting him in the elite category.
That was very disrespectful what you just did to Garrett
He's
Wilson.
really good. Really talented.
He's not.
He is really good.
I don't think he's an elite receiver in this league.
Okay.
I don't think he's C.D. Lamb or Tyreek Hill. And Mike Williams. Mike Williams made Chargers fans crazy for 5 years. He shows up once every 5 games. He makes a terrific play, and then he disappears. And the other thing is the Jets, I don't have the stats right in front of me, but the Jets' running game has not been great. Like Aaron Rodgers can't just fall back on a dominant running game to save himself from himself. So I think there's a lot going on with that offense beyond Aaron Rodgers.
Billy was very frustrated with Mike Williams last night. The BBBs, his big board bets on God Bless Football. We were looking good, Billy, until Mike Williams happened.
Well, I mean, every week on Mondays, I give you 3 bets that if I was in a DraftKings state, I may so be inclined to bet. However, I'm not, so I don't. But if I was, I would maybe feel strongly enough about these games to place bets. And we were doing good this season. We were 13-8 headed into the game.
I know.
But I was feeling a little bit iffy about some of those bets yesterday. One of them was a Josh Allen anytime touchdown because he hadn't scored a rushing touchdown since week 1 where he scored 2.
Yep.
Got that one out of the way real early.
You did.
Then I was feeling, Aaron, I think his yardage was 217.5 yards. I said Aaron's going to put on a show because he wants to make the world think Robert Saleh was the problem. So he's going to throw as much as he can. He's going to be throwing all day long. Then I saw it was windy, so I was a little nervous about that one. Alan Lazard, I was feeling good about, but Mikey A tried to convince me Mike Williams was the bet. Alan Lazard was like over 34.5 yards. Got that easy. Then we threw in a bonus.
Yeah, easy.
He did get it easy. He got 115 yards on the day. He got that one easy.
Quick update.
Contested Hail Mary.
The Jets are 3rd from the bottom in team rushing, team running, and Garrett Wilson is averaging 9.7 yards a catch. I'm just saying.
Yeah, that I would also put some of that on the quarterback, who, as I outlined before, likes to throw short now. He's like I said, when he was elite, he was sneakily one of those guys that was more of a check down guy. I think Garrett Wilson is supremely talented. I can go off of like what Aaron Rodgers has said because Aaron Rodgers has been in the league for a long time, and he's said great things about Garrett Wilson's talent. I think he's at that level. The guys that you highlighted, I don't think there's much of a difference between CeeDee Lamb and Wilson. I think the major difference is the offenses that they play in.
To your Mike Williams point, he did 24.5 yards, and he didn't get a reception.
Thank you.
But had he not slipped on the turf and caught that pass, we would have been golden 4-0 and said 3-1. That's fine. We move on. 16-9 on the season.
Troy Aikman made news by saying after the game to Scott Van Pelt, I can see this Jets thing unraveling. And I was looking at Jess. I'm like, hasn't it already? They fired their coach.
It's unraveled.
We have all sorts of questions about the savior at the position, and now the defense looks a little bit more concerning. They're in a hole. Luckily, they play in a division where they can make it back, but I think it's kind of unraveled.
It's definitely unraveling. Aaron Rodgers is making sarcastic references to South Park in his post-game
that was great.
conference.
That's when you know, right?
That's
great.
not good.
And Bill Belichick is just slamming the Jets. Last night on the Manning cast, Belichick took shots at Jets owner Woody Johnson. Let's take a listen here.
Like Fireman Ed, but that's it. But you know what? Coach Saleh did a good job with that program. I mean, he brought in a culture, a level of toughness and competitiveness. Unfortunately, the offense, hasn't been what, a lot of quarterbacks last year and a little bit of a slow start. But I thought Coach Saleh really did a good job with this team. And, they're probably not that far away from winning.
Seemed quite early to me to be making a head coaching change.
Yeah.
But Bill, you mentioned.
Bill, that's kind of what it's been there at the Jets. It barely won over 30% in the last 10 years. So, the owner being the owner, just ready, fire, aim.
Coach Saleh also barely had over 300 win percentage. He was 357 as the Jets head coach. Like, how's he with a straight face saying he did a great job there?
I think we can cross the Jets off the list, though, for Belichick.
Really?
Again.
Yeah, I don't know.
I think Belichick could slam an owner and still get the head coaching job.
Yeah, New York market. A lot to like there.
Yep.
Telling you.
He said they're close.
He did. Who better to take them over the edge than Bill Belichick?
Yeah.
I think Saleh took him over the edge.
Well, the wrong edge, though. The cliff.
Yeah, they fell off a bit.
I mean, the good edge.
I don't see Bill Belichick as a New York guy. I don't think he's a big city guy.
I could see him with the Giants.
He's a legendary Giants.
He spent a good portion of his career in New York.
Nah, he's not a big city man.
He was the Giants' defensive coordinator under Bill Parcells.
No, he's not a big city
He took the Jets head coaching job and called him up and said, I don't want the job a day later.
General Boston area is a big city.
I was about to
It
say,
is.
Boston's
Yeah,
a pretty big
Northeast.
city.
Nah,
Cleveland's pretty
man.
big. Cleveland's pretty big.
Cleveland is big. Most NFL markets are big.
I see him as a cabin man.
Do you really?
Yeah, I
Aaron
bet you
Rodgers
he
is
changes.
Aaron Rodgers is a cabin
I
man.
see him
How'd
as
that
like
work out?
exiting a beach house outside of a squeaky door kind of guy.
I bet you he changes his underwear twice a week.
That much?
I am getting a text here from Rece Davis because he is struggling with the Zoom link. I'm just letting you guys know, okay? There was no way to do that without communicating it on the air here. Rece Davis is going to join us, talk some college football in just a second. And also,
there's like a half dozen ways to communicate that off the air.
I know, but I had to talk. Like, no one was that's on me.
You can back channel with us.
It's on,
Wait, is
you're
Rece
right.
finally
It's on
coming
me.
on because Dan left? Because Dan kept saying that Rece had the worst touchdown call of all time or whatever, and so he didn't want to come on while Dan was here.
Well, I will tell you, I told him that Dan will not be here. I said it's me, Greg Cote, the shipping container. That's who's here today. Rece is happy to do it. He's always happy to do it. I have no idea what happened last week with Le Batard and Rece Davis because all Dan has to do is ask me to get Rece on, and he'll come on. Dan was acting like he was reaching out to Rece Davis, trying to get him on the show, and Rece was blowing him off.
Well, we did reach out to him after that Miami game, and he said because of his voice being like shot after that weekend that he would pass.
And he also called him a traffic cop once.
That also.
Yeah, that too. Yeah.
Do we have the sound of the Rece Davis call?
The touchdown call? Yeah, the epic touchdown call, we have it.
Yeah, because it's a good way to bring Rece Davis in when we bring him.
Rece would disagree with that, probably.
Touchdown scored.
Whistles. And they signal the touchdown.
Whistles.
It's a good place to start with Rece, right?
Yeah.
Why didn't someone give him some ibuprofen? There's nothing worse than fighting through that like horrible sore throat when you just have to keep talking.
Yeah, I've been doing that.
Are you okay?
Yeah, my whole life, actually.
Oh.
Now, the weekend gave me a sore throat for some reason.
Really?
Still
The
fighting
singer?
it, Yeah.
What happened?
I don't know. Couldn't begin to guess.
I mean, your wife was away, right?
Yeah.
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 I don't know. It's just a mystery. Better today than yesterday, though.
Right.
I'm not sure if coffee helps or hurts if you have a
Probably
sore
hurts,
throat.
especially if it's acid. Do you think it's acid reflux? Because then the acidity from the coffee.
I used to have GERD, like Gerd Mueller,
How did
the
you get
former
rid of
German
it?
soccer star. What?
How did you cure your GERD?
I took medication
Cured.
for it, and it helped.
Like Pepsid?
Well,
Prevacid?
I don't know if it's Pepsid or what, but you know the what I'm addicted to now. Tums used to be terrible, right? It was the chalky. Pink.
Oh, they're
Very chalky,
The
yes.
candy coated Tums.
yes,
Yeah.
the
They're
chewable
so
Tums.
good.
I'm addicted to them. I
How many
eat
do you
like
have a
5 a
day?
day, whether I have GERD or not.
Oh my God, they're so good. Chris, you've never had
Are you
one?
supposed to do that?
They're excellent.
But, Dad,
What?
What flavor, Greg? Do you have the
I
peppermint?
like them all. The pink, the purple.
Okay, because they have like smoothies. They have peppermint. They have creamsicle ones, like
I hadn't
special
even gone
edition.
there.
If you go to Target, Target has like the special edition, holiday editions of the chewy Tums.
Oh, I eat them like candy.
Yeah, probably should be careful on that intake there, Greg.
How's that, Roy?
You know, medicine. You know, too
How
much of
is
it
that?
could kill you.
It's preventative. He's preventing
it
GERD.
is.
He
Yeah.
likes them. I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah.
the Flintstones had vitamins back in the day. And
Terrible.
I
They
used
did.
to eat those like
Yeah.
Skittles.
No,
You know what I'm
no,
saying?
you didn't. Those were terrible.
They were great.
No, they were awful.
I enjoyed that.
It was like biting into rocks.
All right.
When I was
We
in-
agree to disagree.
what's the most you'll have in a 24-hour span?
You're talking to me?
Yes.
I'll
No.
eat. I was exaggerating before. I'll eat 2 or 3 or 4.
How many times a day?
Oh, you generally just once a day. If I'm feeling a little bit of indigestion, I'll pop them like chalk.
There you
like
go.
Tarts.
Exactly
it
right.
says
Pop
Tic
Tarts.
Tacs.
It says 15 is like
Like-
is like the do not take more
No,
than
I've
15
never
a day.
done that. I've never done that. When I was an infant, I OD'd on St. Joseph's baby aspirin.
Really?
Yeah, my mother told me that.
Did you have to get your stomach pumped?
No, but they did take me to a hospital and described what I had done, and I think they just, went like the doctor went like that and sent us home.
Well, it sounded more serious at the start
Yeah,
of the story.
but it was a whole bottle. I guess it didn't have a child-proof cap. Back then, they didn't have child-proof caps, right? So
Yeah.
how did people like me live to be my age?
Right.
We survived it. That's how.
It seems like a waste of a hospital visit. I mean,
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
overdose? I don't know. I think that's kind of.
Well, it wasn't even an overdose. He went in there and they just
OD.
sent him home. They're like, he's fine.
Well, if it says to take 2 and I eat a half a bottle of 30, I mean, that's
all right.
an overdose.
That's a suggestion.
Yeah. It could have been a lie.
Maybe I believe too much in Western medicine, but I feel like if a baby eats an entire bottle of aspirin, maybe check it out.
Yeah, I agree.
He's fine. Look at him. He got GERD, but other than that, he's alive and kicking.
It's like Yankee.
Barely.
Alive, not kicking anymore.
Do you have a back in my day today?
I do not. No,
wow.
I was so busy yesterday that I didn't have time.
Yeah.
Right. Hosting the show.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Maybe next week.
Maybe. Yeah. You okay?
Toss a Tums in there.
You all right, Greg? Seriously. Okay, he's all right.
Yeah, I'm good.
All right, Rece Davis has found the Zoom link. He is going to join us coming up here in a second. We'll talk some college football with Rece. Rece Davis is the host of College Game Day, always nice enough to make time for us. And Rece, we were discussing this before you came on because we feel like you did not get enough credit for your heroic efforts a week ago when you were at Cal and you were forced into action to call the Cal-Miami game. So we want to give you your proper due right now, Rece. It was a heroic effort. Way to go, Rece.
That was actually, it was a really fun game. It was pretty disappointing because early in the week or midweek, I've been fighting off a little something. And then I was literally on the plane Thursday night going to Cal, and I got the call that, Dave Fleming had a family emergency and they needed someone to step in. And I said, look, I've had a little thing with my voice, but I think I've turned the corner. I think I'm in good shape. Made it through the show. And then Saturday afternoon, sitting in my hotel room, going over my boards, putting notes on the board and getting ready for the game and all of that stuff. You know how you start to feel it coming back?
Yeah.
And you think, oh, no, I'm getting sick. And then I was like just slamming tea. And the thing is, I haven't told anybody this publicly, but because I like you guys, I'll tell you this. I did the last, I would say, 4 minutes of that game with my hands on the table in front of me, desperately needing to go to the restroom, but could not.
Wow.
I mean, desperately, because I'd had so much tea, so much water, just trying to get through the game. And fortunately, I survived without incident, and so too did the Hurricane. So that was good.
Ovation again.
Yes.
Ovation
Wow.
again.
What a trooper.
1 or 2, Rece. 1 or 2.
Oh no, it was 1. It was
okay.
number 1 because I was
Stugotz.
just drinking.
In delicate question.
One of the people in the booth said, "I don't think I've ever seen anyone drink as much tea and honey and water as you just did in the last 3.5 hours." I was like desperately trying to keep my voice going, and and I was a little sick, but I'm on the mend now. Should be in. I'd say I'm about 90%. So now I'm upgraded from questionable last week all the way to probable and maybe off the list pretty soon.
Now, Rece, when you sound like you did during that game, do you grind that tape afterwards and listen back, or do you just
No, man,
just move on?
Yeah, no, that has to disappear. It's
well, we'll give you a little taste of what you sounded like.
No!
Oh, don't do this. What do you want?
This is where the big comeback started, Rece. You met the moment.
20 on 3rd and goal. And try it again. This time make it work. Isaiah Horton goes into the end zone without incident. And the Canes draw closer.
Just fighting through.
It was rough.
Heroic,
man.
though.
Yes. It's funny. I don't get sick very often, but we don't need to dwell on this, I don't guess. But when I do get a cold or whatever, that's where it tends to get me. So anyway, hopefully that's one and done for this season, and that won't happen anymore.
One thing, Rece, that has been really sick this year has been all of the home atmospheres at the College Game Day locations that you guys have been to, and most recently Oregon and Ohio State, giving us the game that we were all hoping for this past weekend. Do you think Oregon really has the juice to take this thing all the way to a Big Ten championship in the playoff?
I do. Now, look, I do think Ohio State has the better roster, but I think Oregon has the better quarterback. Now, I don't say that to cast aspersions at Will Howard. I think he's a really good player, but I've been a big fan of Dylan Gabriel since he was at UCF. And he was really good at UCF, played great at Oklahoma last year, and made big plays against a really good elite Ohio State defense on Saturday night. So I do. The Jordan Birch injury is a significant thing. He's their best pass rusher, but they have other guys. So I think Oregon is built to do this. Now, if they were to play Ohio State again, which seems likely, if they make it to the Big Ten championship game, beating that team anywhere is a tall task. Doing it twice would be huge. But I think Oregon is not only a playoff team, but a legitimate national championship contender.
Rece, let's head back to Cal for just a quick second because I want you to help me figure out Miami. They needed a miracle comeback against Cal the week before. They needed an overturned last-second touchdown to beat Virginia Tech. They're about this close to being 4-2. How good is Miami?
I think they're really good, but they can't keep doing this because some of their problems have been self-inflicted. So they need to, they need to stop putting themselves in holes against teams they should beat. Now, no disrespect intended to Cal or Virginia Tech. Virginia Tech, who was supposed to be good coming into the season, probably hasn't played as well as it had hoped. But Miami's the better team. And the good news for Miami is if it were to get in that situation again, having Cam Ward is a really good way to get out of it. And, he's probably the leading contender for the Heisman Trophy, along with Ashton Genty from Boise State, a couple of other players certainly in the mix there. But I think Miami and Clemson are the two best teams in the ACC. I picked Clemson to win it before the season, but then again, I picked them to beat Florida State. So what do I know? Certainly Miami is good enough and deep enough to be able to win the ACC and get to the playoff. I think they're very good. They just haven't played their best ball in the last couple of games. But you guys know this. Sometimes championship teams get away with a couple like that. And, I think I didn't like the way replay was called in the Virginia Tech game. But I think the result was closer to right than the other call would have been. But I did not see indisputable video evidence. And I think the call on Mendoza, the targeting call, was a missed call. So Miami has been very fortunate to get out of that without the two losses that you mentioned. But sometimes championship teams need a couple of breaks along the way.
I understand that it's been a rough year for Purdue this season. You okay, Billy? The ill-timed microphone being on, getting
I think he caught what Rece has.
Nothing to sneeze at. I mean,
historically,
I once said that to Lou Holt when Lou sneezed on the air.
It's the greatest moment in your career and in broadcasting history. I mean, it is. Chris will find that for us. But go ahead, Mike.
Historically, a number 2 team coming into Purdue. That doesn't go well for the number 2 team in the nation, although I know it's a down year for Purdue. But we've seen a lot of upsets so far, and maybe it's catching people by surprise. I think there's so many big games on the schedule now with conference realignment that there's a lot more look-ahead weeks, and teams are getting caught. But also one of the big things, as you guys experienced in Eugene and as you called with Miami traveling to Cal, is the conference realignment has meant a lot more air miles for these teams traveling. Do you think that is a contributing factor for why this season's been a little bit tougher to predict?
Well, the results speak for themselves. Now, I should have updated the numbers before I came on with you guys, but going into last weekend, teams in the Big Ten traveling 2 or more time zones against power conference opponents. So you took the Hawaii game for UCLA out of the mix, but they were 1-10. And, Ohio State lost. Penn State did get a win under those circumstances last week. I don't think this Purdue team, despite that rally that they had that came up a little short against Illinois, is the type of team that should be able to be the proverbial spoiler makers. But you had a really emotional win. You have a short week for Oregon, and you travel the 2 time zones. So there are some things working in their favor, but I don't think these are the types of teams that Jeff Brom had a few years ago that, laid the wood to really good Ohio State teams. I think they maybe beat Michigan State when Michigan State was highly ranked one year. I don't believe this is that type of Purdue team. So I think Oregon should be fine, but your point's well taken. I mean, they've got and nobody has upset top 2 teams as a ranked opponent at the rate that Purdue has. No, I mean, they lead the world in that category, but I'm not quite sure they have a Rondale Moore or someone like that to be able to spark an upset.
Chris, let's play for the audience one of the greatest feats in broadcasting history.
Also mentioned Amir Abdullah. Now, Marshall, usually it's all Rakeem Cato who did throw a touchdown pass in his 40. Devin Johnson put up 272 yards. That's a Marshall record, nothing to sneeze at.
Just great. Just fantastic.
Nailed it. You listen back to that, huh? I mean,
that was better than the earlier clip. Although the cadence was a little quick.
Yes.
So I need to slow down, but that's okay.
Rece, the big game this weekend. Well, there are several big games this weekend, but the one a lot of people are focused on is Georgia and Texas. And I'm wondering, can Georgia lose here for a second time and still make the college football playoff?
They can, but it would certainly put them with very little, if any, margin for error. They'll then start needing things to go well around them. I think, if you have, it also depends on how the game is played, but you have a last-second loss at Alabama. You have if they were to have another last-second loss at Texas and still come through the rest of the schedule with the trip to Ole Miss still looming, I think they could, but a second loss would certainly put them in peril. So it's a really, really big game for Georgia. And it's a Georgia defense that by mere mortal standards is still good, but by Georgia standards has been a step behind. And with Quinn Ewers having a week to sort of knock off the rust and get his timing back against Oklahoma, that's probably, you want to be as sharp as you possibly can be on defense. I think that goes without saying. But, on the flip side, Texas hasn't seen a quarterback or an offense anything like Georgia has up to this point in the season. I think I put in my notes yesterday that Texas has faced, among its Power 4 opponents, they have faced a former walk-on making his second start and 2 freshman quarterbacks, and they haven't seen a passing offense. 4 of the 6 teams they faced rank 100th or worse in passing offense, and the best passing offense they faced is 45th. So this is going to be a different type of challenge for Texas as well. But I do think the Georgia defense needs to elevate its play, particularly in the secondary, if they're going to have a chance to win Saturday night.
You mentioned Georgia's remaining schedule. If they do lose to Texas, they would also have to beat Tennessee this year. Tennessee is playing Alabama this weekend. But Tennessee's offense just really hasn't looked right over the past few weeks. Nico Iamaleava, I think, only had 4 completions of over 10 air yards last weekend against Arkansas. He's not looked as good as they looked early in the season playing against the non-SEC teams on their schedule. So when you have Tennessee's offense, which has been struggling, versus Alabama's defense, which has struggled against the last couple opponents that admittedly run a very different offense than what Tennessee has, who do you have coming out with a win in that game?
I wish I could tell you. I probably lean Tennessee a little bit because they're at home, and I think that they probably are going to play better in the passing game. Combination of factors. One, Iamaleava is a very talented quarterback who hasn't played his best. But they've also, I think the thing to remember is I know Heupel is built on going fast, up-tempo, small amount of time between plays. But the strength of this Tennessee team is its defense, particularly its defensive front, and the running game with Dylan Sampson. So Heupel is playing to his strengths a little bit. It'll be interesting to see, though, if they attack downfield, because Alabama's secondary, while I think they have talented players, they have a lot of young guys back there with a couple of veterans at safety. And implementing a new system, new coaching staff, there have certainly been some bumps in the road. There's no question about that. So I think you'll see a better Tennessee passing attack. And the real question becomes, can Alabama be consistent on offense? We know they have dudes who can erase mistakes. Jalen Milroe, Ryan Williams, Jan Miller, there and a number of other guys. They can go, negative play, 0 yardage, 79 yards to the house. They're very capable of doing that. So if Tennessee can limit that and maybe get just a little bit more out of that passing game, I probably lean Tennessee a little bit on Saturday.
Rece, a question that I don't believe has ever been spoken aloud in the history of college football. Does the Army-Navy winner actually have a chance to make the college football playoff?
Yes.
A chance, yes. Especially if they both were to remain undefeated, and both have to play Notre Dame before the end of the season. So that'll be a tall task. It'll be one of the strangest things if they both were to make the conference championship game in the American, play that game, potentially with a college football playoff berth on the line, and then turn around and play again the next week in their regularly scheduled game, which will have no impact on the playoff whatsoever. Now, I do think that they'll probably need Boise State and possibly UNLV maybe to lose another game or two out of the Mountain West in order to be that, fifth highest ranked conference champion and get one of the 5 automatic bids into the field. I think it's a little bit of a taller task for Army or Navy to be in that large selection. So that would be, the challenge for them. But, certainly it could happen. And if they're undefeated, they'll be in position not only to be that 5th highest ranked conference champion or maybe 4th highest ranked, and certainly they'll at least be on the cusp of at-large consideration. So it's not out of the realm of possibility at all. And if you haven't seen either of them play this year, they still run option. I'm not trying to suggest otherwise, but they put some really fun wrinkles into the offense, particularly at Navy, and Army has found its own version of it. And they're a little more explosive through the air at key times than you might imagine. And this Blake Horvath at Navy, the quarterback, is a ton of fun to watch.
Rece, the show is better than ever. It really is, which is saying something, College Game Day. But I'm wondering, what has surprised you the most about working with Nick Saban? Because he's been great.
He's been phenomenal. I think the quickness with which he has adapted to television. He's one of the most gifted communicators I've ever been around. I mean, he can explain things and grab your attention in a way, both football, psychological, or if he's telling you about his business ventures. I mean, he can communicate. Everybody knows this. This is why everybody in the world wants him to come speak. But television and fitting into a group is a different dynamic, and usually, for most people, I think it almost takes a full season. And for him, I mean, he's adapted very quickly. He understands team. He's a great advocate for the show. He comes up with ideas. He's certainly, as you guys might not be surprised by, he's not shy about expressing his opinion, yet he is not overbearing. That guy listens to everybody and takes it into consideration. So he's been great. And I think probably how quickly he's been great has been the only thing that surprised me.
Rece, the most stressful part of me watching College Game Day is whenever McAfee stands on the chair. But luckily, the last few weeks, you've gone over and you've been a helpful friend, kind of holding the chair for him. Mm-hmm. Now, I will say, while that's very nice of you and very helpful, if he falls on that chair, it's going to crush on social media. So I really think you need to reevaluate.
He should push him.
Even Pat. I mean, Pat loves a viral moment. I feel like even Pat would like the viralness of him falling from that chair.
He might. The funny thing, I got a text from him a few weeks ago, and because I've been doing this for a while, when he was sitting right beside me, I would always reach over and steady the thing. But I mean, these chairs are not made for people to stand on them, right? And so I gotta protect my guy. I gotta make sure Pat doesn't take a spill to the best of my ability. I have thought a couple of times, okay, what if he comes off the thing anyway? Am I sturdy enough and strong enough to absorb the blow? And maybe all of us will come out none the worse for the wear. But I'm going to steady that thing for him because I appreciate your desire for a viral moment. But my desire to keep the show from completely going off the rails and making sure that one of my teammates doesn't get injured is going to supplant your desire for the viral moment.
I have a McAfee take as well. I think, Rece, that he is getting tired of writing these checks for made field goals. Yes or no?
He's one of the most generous people you'll meet. I mean, you guys are familiar with the show. He's always giving away money, and he was very wise after the floods and the hurricanes, that came through to say, hey, let's as a group, and he said this during a break of his show, hey, let's as a group commit to putting in, I think he said $500,000, and he said, whatever, you guys want to do, we'll make sure to make it all up, and that'll be the total. He's an extraordinarily generous guy. I think he likes the fact that, the people get a chance to make that kind of money. But, I mean, he's bringing this on himself. These are all second chance opportunities, and I tell him every week, hey, look, if you want me to get you out of it, I'll say, no, we don't have time for a second chance. But, so far he's been good. We'll find out this week if he wants to say this is a one and done venture for whoever the kicker is.
Rece, what's been more surprising to you this season? Pitt winning mostly with an offense-first sort of game plan, or Vanderbilt beating Alabama?
Oh, boy.
Oh, both are great questions, particularly because of the way Pittsburgh has had to rally. And, Eli Holstein has been terrific. Their new offensive system is fun to watch a little bit. I mean, they had a good offense with Kenny Pickett, but it's a little bit anti-Narduzzi, one would think. But I would say probably with Alabama coming off that win over Georgia, losing to Vanderbilt is, and Vandy's better than people think. And Diego Pavia is a great story, but they really had no business losing that game. And, and they didn't blow the game. They got whipped. I mean, Vanderbilt beat them on the line of scrimmage, as Pavia said after the game, pretty much from kick until the end. They got whipped. So, but seeing that was probably still the most surprising result of the season. Look, Alabama's going to have some bumps in the road. This transition, when you go from the greatest of all time and who had a certain way of doing things, and you change that, even with an accomplished coach like Kalen DeBoer, and I think he's an excellent coach, his record indicates that. It's not going to go without a hitch. It's just not, and so everybody's getting used to each other. Things happen. But I would say that even so, that's probably the most surprising thing that's happened this season. That and Northern Illinois beating Notre Dame.
Rece, you've been generous with your time as always. I am interested. We play a game around here if the season ended today. Would you be interested in hearing from Steve Kornhacke? He is outside right now on the whiteboard, and he can give you the playoff matchups if the season ended today in college football. Would that interest you?
I'd love to see that. Let's see that.
Thank you, Stu. We're out here in Kornhacke's Corner taking a look at if the college football season ended today with 50% of the results in from our polling thus far. We take a look at the AP poll. Texas, Oregon, Miami, Iowa State. They would have byes thus far if the college football season ended today. So when you look at the matchups, LSU and Alabama, as Alabama hosts an SEC showdown. You'd have Georgia and Clemson, a couple of staples of the college football playoff. Ohio State, who just lost to a Heupel disciple in Dylan Gabriel, taking on Josh Heupel's Tennessee Volunteers. Texas, Oregon, Ohio State, the highest percent chance to make the college football playoff according to the New York Times. But the matchup I want Rece to take a look at, Swing State, Pennsylvania. Penn State hosting Ashton Jeanty, the best running back in the nation, as Boise State would travel to Happy Valley. Rece, your thoughts on this potential matchup?
I think Boise State is legit. I'm having a hard time, getting past the attire, but I know we're going for the election night motif. Let's roll up the sleeves and get in there. Got to work on that tie for him. Yeah, well, work on the tie a little bit, but it's
been a long
day. But we're okay. I like the whiteboard. It's good. I think that Boise State. Look, Oregon needed a couple of special teams touchdowns to beat them, and Jeanty hit them for a 70-yard touchdown as well. This dude is legit. He's the best running back in the country. He's going to be a tremendous NFL running back because he's also a great receiver, played a lot of receiver in high school. So I think Penn State would have its hands full with that game, 5-12, even in Happy Valley. But I would favor Penn State to win the game. But that would be – You expect this 5-12 matchup to be a bit of a blowout. If that's it, it won't be a blowout, and Boise State would have a chance to win that game.
Rece, do you have a minute here? Because we have a couple more questions, if you don't mind.
No, I don't mind.
Okay. Go ahead, Mike.
I want to ask you about the Heisman Trophy, in that this looks like one of the best Heisman races in quite some time, actually, when you consider the star power. You have a star player playing two ways. You have a running back potentially doing something historic with talking about a 3,000-yard season. You have Cam Ward, who seems like he has a transcendent star quality about him with the celebration. Is this the best Heisman race since maybe the 90s?
I don't know if I'm going to go quite that hyperbolic. I'd have to go back through all of them. The Lamar Jackson year was a good Heisman race, though he pulled away with it. Kyler Murray versus Tua was a really good Heisman Trophy race at the end and somewhat, I think somewhat in dispute. So I think all of those races were good, but this is a good one because it's got different layers, meaning that Colorado is much improved. They're not going to be a playoff team. They have the guy who's the best football player in the country. Nobody else is doing what Travis Hunter is doing. Now, got hurt the other night. If he's going to stay in the Heisman race, he can't miss games because they're not likely to have the grand stage of the huge game, conference title implications, all of that type of thing. They're certainly not out of the conference race by losing that game, but they're not likely to have as many huge stages. He's going to have to do special things and be a highlight reel, which he is capable of doing. You have Genty, who's playing outside the Power 4 structure, has one big game against Oregon, against the big boys, and is putting up numbers at a Barry Sanders rate, which is kind of ridiculous. And the more traditional candidate would be Cam Ward. Now, he's not the only one, from the traditional structure, but I would say that he is probably the guy, in my judgment, that would be most likely to win under traditional circumstances. But I do think that Hunter and Genty are going to get a lot of support, and deservedly so. And a lot of it depends on, whether Travis is able to play, how effective he is, all of that type of thing after missing a big portion of the game Saturday night against Kansas State.
Okay, I think the only power conference we haven't talked about yet is the Big 12. So right now, BYU, Iowa State, and Texas Tech all have 3 conference wins. Iowa State's obviously ranked the highest of those 3. But do you have any idea what's going to happen finishing out the month of October into November when these teams start playing each other? Because I really don't know who the best team in this league is.
I think the best team is Iowa State, but BYU's getting better. But what I've said about this, and I've coined it, tried to make it a catchphrase and get Brett Yormark to pay me for it, is that the Big 12 is wide, not deep. And what I mean by that is that everybody's kind of on the same level. I don't know that I see a team even now that has this tremendous ceiling in which they could win the national championship. But I see a lot of really good teams, even teams that have gotten off to terrible starts in conference play. I mean, Oklahoma State's one of the most experienced teams in the country, and they were in the Big 12 championship game a year ago, and they can't get out of their own way right now. Utah has had another injury, unfortunately, to Cam Rising. Those were the teams that were the favorites to begin with, and they're kind of at the bottom of the league. And then you have, these other teams who have risen up. Iowa State has made an art form the last several years of finding ways to lose close games, but they found a way to win it this year, a close game against Iowa. They'll probably have some more, and if they can avoid that rearing its head again and snatching, defeat from the jaws of victory, as they have several times over the last few years. I think it was something like going into the year, they had lost 13 of their last 16 one-possession games, but they've got a terrific young quarterback in Rocco Beck. They've got 3 running backs. They've got 2 receivers who are dynamic. I think Iowa State's the best team. BYU's coming fast, but I think there's a lot of losing left to be done in the Big 12 because there are so many good teams. Nobody, including me, talks nearly enough about Texas Tech, who's off to a great start, and they didn't have their best player, and they lost a game out of conference to Washington State, and I think everyone sort of forgot about them after that.
Rece, whoa. What happened?
We have breaking news here. Ian Rappaport tweeted 1 minute ago, the Raiders are completing a trade of star Davante Adams to the Jets, sources say.
Yes! Whoa! We are back. Anyway, Rece, I am told that Cornhacky has fixed his tie. We'll check in with him one more time. Yeah, and we'll get you out of here. Go ahead.
Thank you, Stugotz. I appreciate you sending it over. With the fixed tie, I want to tie things together. With the first round bye, we look at Texas and Oregon, a 94% chance, according to the New York Times model, of making the college football playoff. Miami standing at 88%. Iowa State just at 51%. So, Rece, I'd like your percentage chance that these top 4 remain the same headed into the end of the season. Back to you.
Okay. You've got I'm going to say a 41% chance of remaining the same because I know this is not going to make me popular there in your hometown. I think Miami's good. I think they'll make the playoff. I think Clemson will beat them in the ACC championship game. But we'll see. I think both teams will probably end up making the playoffs. So it'll be close. And then Oregon still has a way to go. I do think Iowa State and Texas will probably hold their spot.
All right, Rece, we appreciate the time. Check him out, College Game Day,
Right, yeah.
and give our best to Lee Corso. We miss
Sure
Coach,
will.
and we hope he's feeling better.
Thanks a lot.
All right.
Appreciate it. I will.
All right, thank you, Rece. Davante Adams, huh?
Wow.
Mike, you seem bored by that news.
I was bored by it in July when this was going to happen. They've been flirting with each other for 2 years.
Right.
This is a scenario that Davante Adams chose. He chose the money.
Yes.
He wanted to go to the Raiders, his childhood club, and ever since he stepped foot into that organization, he's just been trying to get back to Aaron Rodgers. They've been publicly flirting since they broke up. Just give him what he wants. Aaron Rodgers gets whatever he wants in that organization, and I got to believe that for both these guys, they think that it's going to go the way that it did a couple of years ago. It's not. This continues to go poorly for the New York Jets, and then Aaron Rodgers retires at the end of the season.
Do you guys realize how close we were to having Dianna Russini on twice in a row with breaking Jets news?
Oh, wow.
She's coming on later in the show, and we were so close to doing this to her again, and I'm so bummed we missed out on that.
She's actually at the owners' meetings, and she's going to join us coming up next to break this down. Dianna Russini joins us every week. She is very stressed right now. She's always stressed. She has that kind of job. She's the senior NFL insider for The Athletic. Her podcast with Chase Daniel is called Scoop City. It's a massive hit. She is joining us from the owners' meetings right now. You appear to be very stressed out. What is going on there?
I joined the show on Tuesdays because I love talking football with you guys, and you know I love you. But every time I'm on this show, stuff is happening. Davante Adams is a New York Jet. He's been traded from the Las Vegas Raiders. He is headed to New York. In fact, I think he's in New York at this moment. I'm trying to confirm that right now. But, yeah, all of this happened, and we knew this was leading up to this point. All signs were pointing to the Jets here for weeks, and I was told that Woody wanted to make sure they did not mess this deal up. So they're able to get Aaron Rodgers, his really good friend, another weapon, obviously someone that he trusts outside of Allen Lazard, who can now join this Jets team. So after, a really difficult loss on Monday Night Football, some good news for Jets fans today.
Yes, and if you have to go here to do your job, just let us know and we'll let you go here. Do you have any idea what the Jets gave back to get Davante Adams?
Yeah. So the Raiders are going to receive a 3rd round pick that can become a 2nd round based on his performance. So, this is like the Stephon Diggs trade. It's kind of like how we've been discussing it on the show about what a trade would look like. It's not as good, but it's close. The Bills were lurking around a little bit there. They were trying to land Adams. That obviously is not something that worked out for them. Currently trying to work on the compensation, because if you guys remember, we talked about this on the show. Mark Davis did not want to take on this salary. So in this moment right now, I'm just trying to confirm to see how much the Jets are going to be taking on, if all of it, and if the Raiders are helping them out a little bit. So we'll stay tuned here as this stuff is all just developing once again on this show.
This segment is presented by LinkedIn Jobs. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/prep. Terms and conditions apply.
Dianna, what is the weight of this Davante Adams signing for the Jets? Does it transform Aaron Rodgers into the quarterback they thought? Does it make the Jets a playoff team? What do you see the impact as?
Okay, the Raiders are not paying any of Davante Adams' salary, according to a source close to the situation right now. So, look, I think the Jets are all in on this. They are giving Aaron Rodgers and this offense and this team every single possible thing that they can do to try to maximize Aaron Rodgers while his time is here as he's getting older. We don't know how much longer he's going to be a New York Jet. So I look at this as, guys, a week ago, I was on the show with you talking about the firing of Robert Saleh. And now a week later, they're meeting with Hassan Reddick's new representation. Drew Rosenhaus has been granted an opportunity to seek a trade right now for Hassan Reddick. The Jets told him, you got a short window here to try to see if you can get a trade partner. Otherwise, let's try to see if we can work this out in New York. So potentially, if they can fix this with Hassan Reddick and Drew Rosenhaus can work his magic, they could get Reddick in the building as well. along with Davante Adams. So, look, I think it's just obvious Woody knows that this is the window. This is the window. You know, we laugh about Jerry Jones saying all in. I don't know. This is all in to me.
Dan, I was just going to ask you about Hassan Reddick. Now that they have Davante Adams coming to New York, does this motivate them to kind of make something happen? Because this morning you reported that they gave him permission to kind of seek a trade, but now wouldn't you want to get him in?
You do. You want to get him in, but again, you're dealing with a situation where they started off in a really bad spot because they lost trust in one another. Hassan Reddick thought that the Jets were going to be able to give him a deal that they agreed upon. The Jets said, no, that's not what we said. We said that we'd see how you would perform. There was some sort of miscommunication, and everyone close to Hassan was telling me that he is going to die on this hill, that he is not going back. So now with the change of voice here in terms of his representation, and guys, you don't hire Drew Rosenhaus if you don't want to play football, right? You hire Drew because he gets it done. So Drew right now is trying to figure out what the market is for Hassan outside of the Jets if they aren't able to work it out as a backup plan. But also the Jets know that there's a chance that they could lose Hassan. And look, you have to look at it from Joe Douglas's standpoint too on this. What kind of shape is Hassan in right now? Right? This is a player they need right now. How long is it going to take for him to get in play shape and accustomed to the Jets' way of doing things? There's a lot of factors there. Davante Adams is in the building in New York. As it's coming in. Is this ridiculous to you guys right now? Like just watching this?
I love you telling us that he's in the building. Yeah.
Do the Jets know the season already started?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're
she
2
can
and 4.
confirm
Yeah,
earlier
2 and
reports.
4. Right. Yes.
Yeah.
They know it started. So.
I'll filibuster a little bit while
You're
you
like, we're going all
catch
in.
up on stuff.
Yeah, Mike, let me just catch up on these 2 texts and tweets, and I'm going to be right with you.
Yeah, totally understood. As those that are just joining us are learning, Davante Adams has been traded to the New York Jets. Now, there were a couple of teams that were kicking the tires on acquiring Davante Adams.
She said Buffalo.
Yeah. I heard Buffalo as well through my sources. So, Dianna, what is Buffalo going to do now, and what is the entire wide receiver market going to do now that Davante Adams is off the board? You have these teams that were aggressively pursuing the Saints, and Buffalo were in on this Davante Adams sweepstakes. I'm wondering if they pivot and go elsewhere.
Yeah, look, we got the trade deadline coming up in just a few weeks. I was just, God, I sometimes I just wish there was a camera on my phone so you guys can see the mistakes before I catch them.
Right.
Like I just was about to tweet, Davante Adams is in the Jets building. Pet my sources. Like,
your dog?
I'm the senior NFL insider at The Athletic, owned by the New York Times.
Yes,
and I almost just tweeted that.
Yeah.
So this is why I love this show, because you guys accept me for everything I am.
Even busy. Okay. Yes, go ahead.
Other wide receivers possibly on the move.
Yeah,
Buffalo Bills, something. Right?
No, it's a great question because they need help, right? We saw Josh struggling yesterday. Last night. It just looked like, look, this season is on Josh Allen's shoulders. It's if he does not win this for him, if he does not run the ball, if he does not use his body and his ability to create plays, the Buffalo Bills are in trouble. Their defense obviously had some really great moments last night themselves, but this team is going to need more if they want to go deep. They cannot just rely on Josh. So with the trade deadline coming up on November 5th, we're a few weeks out. Look, there's receivers. DeAndre Hopkins in Nashville would make sense to me. Amari Cooper he's got a great contract situation for Buffalo, who doesn't have a lot of money. And now look, these aren't names of players that I think Buffalo, stands up clapping like, yes, we got to get this guy in the building. But it's something. It's players that are veterans that have played at a high level at some point here, and perhaps could use a change of scenery themselves. So we'll see. And then, as you know, the great thing about the trade deadline is teams that have told me they're not going to be busy in terms of dealing are saying that on October 15th. But so much changes between now and then.
Do you think Adams will be active for the Jets' next game on Sunday Night Football?
Yeah, I do. Look, he's dealing with.
God damn it! They're playing the Steelers, Dianna. Can you stop that from happening?
I have no juice in that Jets building. I can tell you that much. if anything, they would probably escort me out like they did with Salah if they could. But no, look, I think they're going to try to get. He's in the building for a reason, right? So he's going to get a physical and probably hop right into meetings the second the players are in the building. In fact, someone texted me that he's already meeting with the coaching staff. So this is really good news for the Jets that are trying to squeeze this, and bad news for the Steelers that, look, they have figured out how to get this offense going with Justin Fields, and talking to people there and even just Steeler players. They're really supportive of Justin Fields. They're all in. I know there were a lot of conversations being had last week about Russell Wilson, and it is an interesting factor, and it's great that he's there and he's a captain. But it just appears to me, just through these conversations, that Justin's the guy, and they want to build this around him. Do I think Russell could get on the field at some point? Maybe, but I don't think the Justin Fields seat is as hot as some people believe it to be in Pittsburgh.
Dianna, wasn't sure you were coming to me. I'm sorry. Yeah. Tom Brady seems like he's finally going to get approved as a minority owner of the Raiders. Will that or should that preclude him from remaining in a TV booth?
So it is going to get approved today, and I think that it is not going to prevent him from being a broadcaster, from what I can understand, from having conversations with people here about what this looks like for Tom Brady's future. And this was discussions that were had even before we got to this point. Now it's expected to get voted on today and approved, but if it doesn't, they'll probably vote again in December. This is one of the weirder league meetings of all the ones that they have. Guys are just coming in for the day. Like you guys can see I'm sitting in this little booth in the lobby, and behind my camera that you guys can't see is where the owners are just walking through right now. So this is my time to go get them because they're going to go into meetings.
Yes. So get out of here. What are you doing? Go do your job. Seriously. We're sorry. Okay.
There's just a reoccurring theme here. I feel like
yes, we're getting in the way of you doing your job.
I love you guys, and I don't want to bail on you because I love that you have me on Tuesday. So this is just my window, and Jerry went crazy on the radio today.
Go.
And I haven't heard him have a meltdown like that. I think ever since I've covered him. So I kind of want to get to the bottom of what's poking at him. I think we know, but I'm looking forward to kind of hearing what he has to say. So. I'm going to shoot you guys a text after I go run in the lobby here, and maybe I can hop back on if you don't have any big guests that you got to get on the show.
We are good. You are always welcome here. She's the senior NFL insider for The Athletic, and her podcast with Chase Daniels is called Scoop City, with episodes every Tuesday and Friday. Thank you. Go do the job that you're
paid to do. Go tell the Roonies we need a receiver too, Dianna. I'm counting on you.
I'm on a mission, Jess.
Thank you, Dianna. Mike, this is interesting because I am super excited. I was so disappointed this morning when I walked in because the Jets were at 2-4 and Aaron Rodgers is not playing well. But all it takes is a little Davante Adams trade, and I am back. I mean,
why are you back? You're just replicating on a more grand scale the same mistakes that you've made since day one with Aaron Rodgers, who claimed to not have any power within that organization just days ago. And then the coach that he was giving laser eyes to is gone. And now his favorite receiver that he's been openly flirting with for 2 years is now back.
Is this like Stockholm Syndrome or something? Like we're just repeating the same exact pattern over and over again, and Stugotz keeps buying it time and time again.
Eventually they have to stumble into something that is going to work. I mean, eventually.
Yeah. You think so? Because
well,
they keep doubling and tripling down. I think it's far more likely that Davante Adams and Aaron Rodgers hate each other by the end of the season. This thing working out so far, given what we've seen.
I'm firmly in I'll believe it when I see it mode with the Jets. I'll believe it when I see it. Until then, I'm not. I'm just gonna be like, oh, that's interesting.
They'll have like a 2-week trade. They'll have like a 2-week run where Aaron can remind people of how great he once was, and their defense will talk people into thinking if this team gets into the playoffs, it'll be tricky. But then it'll just like at the end of the season.
Dominique said on his podcast last week that he thought Aaron Rodgers would have like a 400-yard 4-touchdown game just to spite everyone on Monday Night Football last night, and I was firmly in agreement with him on that. And then they didn't even do that.
Right.
So I'm just
he was on his way. He looked good in the first half. I mean,
what's our expectation here? That he's going to force feed Davante Adams in the way that he did in Green Bay? And it proved to, at the very end of their time together in Green Bay, to not necessarily be the right move.
Right.
And you look at the receivers that Green Bay now had and the investment that they made in young receivers out there, they were trying to do the right thing there. They have some talent at the receiver position. Garrett Wilson, if this means more plays to Davante and less to Garrett Wilson, I don't think that's an upgrade.
Well, Garrett becomes your number 2. What I like about it is if you're going to go all in with Aaron Rodgers, go all in with Aaron Rodgers.
Well, that's the thing. Aaron Rodgers, Garrett Wilson becomes your number 2, and I don't think he should be.
Right. I do like the idea, like it is funny. The Aaron Rodgers that Davante Adams left 4 years ago is not the same Aaron Rodgers that Davante Adams is returning to 5 years later.
Right.
You know?
I agree with that, but I also think the pessimism in the room isn't necessarily warranted. As a Jets fan,
it's the Jets. That's why.
I can see, though, why Jets fans are excited.
Of course.
Davante Adams is a top-tier receiver. You just added a lot of talent to make Aaron Rodgers seem 5 years younger, and I don't see a downside to that.
Can they get a kicker instead? I think the kicker would affect their bottom line a little bit more. I think panic is warranted, and yes, this is a nice little distraction from what happened just a mere couple of hours ago, but if you pay attention to what it is, they brought in one of Aaron Rodgers' friends that has been a malcontent elsewhere, that hasn't been who he showed us in his prime in quite some time now. So I don't see it. I don't see a path here. The leaves have turned. It's late in the season. They fired their coach. This is a lot of chaos around an organization, and not an organization that has ever shown you they can thrive under these situations.
No, they haven't.
And a quarterback that it's been chaotic since they acquired him, much because of his own doing, and you would swallow some of that if he was better on the field, but we haven't seen him be good on the field. You've seen a couple drives here or there where Stugotz was yelling at his TV, that's why we got Aaron Rodgers. Mm-hmm. And then you see the end of the game stat line and you realize, well, that's why we sent Zach Wilson out of town. This is not a great situation. I just don't see a path for this team. I really don't.
I'm not trying to be pessimistic, Greg. I'm just sort of in the, yes, I think this makes the Jets offense better. I think this will make them a better team, but I'm not going to declare them playoff contenders or Super Bowl champions because I'm firmly in wait and see mode with them. It's week 7 and like to Diana's point, they want to go all in now. They want to figure it out with Reddick. It's like, okay, guys, the season started and you've lost a handful of games already. Where was this in August?
Right. No, this doesn't make Aaron Rodgers not over the hill and way past his prime, but Aaron Rodgers is still better than Gardner Minshew and Aiden O'Connell. I think this is a lift for the receiver as much as it is for the quarterback. I just don't see a downside to a team that needs help on offense adding Davante Adams.
You have a bunch of guys that have turned locker rooms upside down and have been malcontents, and they've been malcontents for a while now, and it hasn't worked out. What is the leadership
Nothing
there?
has worked out.
What is the leadership there? It's not like you have a coach that you can trust can bring all these moving parts together.
Right.
They don't have strong leaders in the room. Their leader, their de facto leader that is getting his way both with roster personnel and the person that they look to on the field, is constantly throwing teammates under the bus, has terrible body language on the field, and is a shell of his former self. So this is just not a good situation. And also, while their overall talent has certainly improved by acquiring a future Hall of Famer in Davante Adams, you have to look within your own division. The Bills are going to make a move. The Bills are going to get their wide receiver room better. Tua may come back. That division will also get better. So it's a moving target for the Jets. And if the rest of the division's arrow is pointing up, they haven't really improved all that much.
But we're only a third of the way through the season.
Thank
right?
you, Billy.
It's not the end of the season, and it is a conference where you could make the playoffs. The Colts are not that much better than the Jets. The Chargers are not that much better. The Dolphins are not that much better right now. You don't know when Tua's going to come back, but even to your point, if the other teams are making moves and you remain stagnant, what is your option? You're going to throw balls more to Tyler Conklin, Jeremy Ruckert, Mike Williams, who didn't have a catch yesterday. You're making your team deeper on offense.
The argument for it is that there's an extra game now, because historically, if you were at this win-loss record at this point in the season, you'd have to be an outlier to make the playoffs. And you'd have to be a great team. And I'd say, yeah, they can maybe sneak into the playoffs, but are they a great team? I just don't see it.
I mean, the argument is, to Billy's point, they're 6 games in. They're a third of the way through the season. They just traded for one of the best wide receivers in the NFL who makes the quarterback.
They got a hole to dig themselves out of.
I understand, but it makes the quarterback really comfortable in a division. I don't care what anyone tells me, is just not that good.
It's not just the division. Like, the AFC doesn't have, like, these powerhouses anymore, right? Like, you have the Ravens, you have the Chiefs that, like, they're fine. Their record doesn't kind of indicate how they've been this season. Like, you can very easily make the playoffs if you're the Jets.
But aren't all those teams saying, like, the Steelers are looking at their schedule like, all right, we got the Jets. Cool. Right?
Well,
like, what is there to fear with the Jets?
I don't know about that as a Steelers fan. But, I mean, I'm trying to differentiate my pessimism from Mike's pessimism.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not shitting on this. I'm just saying I'll wait and see.
Okay.
Which maybe is
wait and see
terrible
approach.
analysis, but I just don't want to get super excited about the Jets because I've seen how you've gotten super excited about all these different things that Aaron Rodgers has done and said.
All I have is excitement. That's it.
Right.
Yes.
Like we have no results yet. So I'll wait for a result till I give him a lot of credit.
But you're so deep in on Aaron Rodgers. You fired your coach. Like, what is a 3rd-round pick at this point? Like, you have to kind of go all in and see this through. If not, you've just given up on the season and on Aaron Rodgers' experiment altogether.
We've done a terrible job here because I need to relive the best part of that Dianna Russini interview.
Dianna, I wasn't sure you were coming to me. I'm sorry.
We cut out the 7 seconds of silence.
What happened to you?
I'll tell you what happened, and I'm not throwing you under the bus.
Okay.
No, you're not Aaron Rodgers in this situation.
You had given me a note saying that Jess and Mike were going before me.
Right, they did.
We did.
It was your turn.
It was your turn.
It's okay, Greg,
we had
because
a sequence.
Dan's not here, so we're fine.
Yeah, it's fine. I mean,
Lazy River, yeah.
If Dan were here,
the Lazy River took us to a 7-second pause before your question, and I'm not going to argue with you.
Okay.
Okay.
Dianna,
okay.
I didn't. Okay,
Wasn't
that
sure
was,
you were
that was
coming
on,
to me. I'm
that's
sorry.
on me.
Not playing the blame game.
That's on me.
Is Corn Hacky ready? Because since we're discussing the season as if it's over, let's look at the AFC if the season ended today.
That's right, Stu. We can take a chance here to look at the percentages as 33% of the results are in through week 6. We would have the Kansas City Chiefs getting a bye. Now, according to the NFL's own model, they have a 99% chance of making the playoffs this season once we get through 18 weeks of football. But you look at the matchups, it would be the number 2 seed Texans sitting at a 93% chance of making the postseason against a 7 seed Colts. You'd have the Ravens hosting the Chargers and the Bills hosting the Steelers. When we do take a look at the teams in the hunt, the Broncos, the Dolphins, the Jets, the Raiders, your New York Jets, Stugotz, sitting at a 55% chance ahead of this Davante Adams trade in terms of their percentage to make the postseason. So the Jets are still alive, and here are your matchups. Texans, Colts, Ravens, Chargers, Bills, Steelers. Stu, the matchup of most interest to you, what do you think?
Bills and Steelers. I mean, that is Josh Allen versus Mike Tomlin. What a fascinating matchup that's going to be come playoff time.
Yes.
They played in the playoffs last year.
Did they?
Yes. It got delayed because of that huge snowstorm.
Oh, that's right.
And if it hadn't,
yes.
I'm telling you, the Steelers would have won that game.
If the season ended today.
Yeah, I love it.
It is so absurd. Who do you like in that matchup?
I like I'm not giving up on the Bills.
Right.
Okay, I'm not giving up on the
Well,
Bills.
I don't think anyone's giving up on the Bills.
And to make one more point about the Davante Adams to the Jets thing.
Mm-hmm.
If you poll all of the defensive coordinators in the NFL
Yeah.
and ask them, are the Jets more of a challenge to defend right now than they were earlier in the day?
Of course.
Before this trade, it's unanimous.
Yes.
And I think that should be the bottom line on this trade.
You combine that, you look at the schedule for the Jets, you look at that division, you could be disappointed with the 2-4 start. You could be disappointed with Aaron Rodgers and how he's playing on the field, and I am. But there is some hope here for a team that's 2-4 to add that wide receiver with that quarterback in a lousy division. Today is a good day. Off a loss to Buffalo, today is a good day for the New York Jets.
Right, and
Yes.
and as far as him being, a locker room cancer or anything else like that, Davante Adams wanted this trade. He's thrilled to be back with Aaron Rodgers, and he's a happy player right now. And they said Tyreek Hill, when he was traded to Miami, might be a problem in the locker room, and he hasn't been. Quite the opposite. So I don't see a real downside here.
Meanwhile, the Chiefs are 5-0. I mean, just laughing at the rest of the league.
Yeah, but not a super impressive 5-0.
No, it's not. But I did this last year. I made the mistake of doing this last year because they weren't impressive last year.
Right.
But they have to be laughing at the rest of the league because when one of their guys goes down, they just put in the next guy.
Yeah.
They don't go shopping for Davante Adams. They just put in, Worthy goes down, it's someone else.
Right.
And so that's why if you have number 15, if you have Mahomes, you're great. And so it doesn't matter what you surround him with. And I thought that's the Aaron Rodgers we would be getting because 10 years ago, Aaron Rodgers was Patrick Mahomes.
Right.
It didn't matter what you put around Aaron Rodgers. The team was going to be good. But with that Chiefs team, it is so simple. Defense is good. Defensive coordinator is legendary. He is great, puts great schemes in place, and they have the best quarterback that has ever played the game outside of Tom Brady.
Having said that, Chiefs at 49ers is the game of the week this week. Even with 3 losses, and I haven't looked at the early line, 49ers are going to be favored.
Right.
And that's saying that don't give up on the 49ers, but I think more than that, it's saying they're a vulnerable 5-0, the Chiefs.
Yes.
I do. I think so.
I think both the 5-0s are probably.
Yeah.
People feel the same way about them. The Vikings as
well.
Yeah,
definitely the Vikings, but also the Chiefs for me.
Yep. Chris, you have a stat of the day?
Start of the day, start of the day. It is your start of the day. Start of the day, start of the day. It is your start of the day. Start of the day, start of the day. It is your start of the day. Start of the day, start of the day. It is the start of the day.
Today's stat of the day is brought to you by Venmo. Now, this will explain, I think, why the Jets made the move they did. Through 6 games with Zach Wilson under center, the Jets scored 113 points last season. Through 6 games this season with Aaron Rodgers under center, the Jets have scored 113 points. Same team.
Steve Martin also.
He needed a stat of the day, though.
I mean, he could have did one that we didn't do already.
Yeah. I didn't know he was going to. It's all right, Chris.
We got the sponsor in, so we're good.
Are we?
Well,
but
somewhat.
just imagine what this would look like if Zach Wilson was the quarterback.
Yeah.
I think that's how we spin this, right?
Yeah.
113 points.
What do you think it would look like?
Not what it looks like.
Right. This is a good 2-4.
It's a good 2-4. I mean,
Really?
granted, through 6 games, Zach Wilson was 3-3 and Aaron's 4-2 or 2-4. But I imagine had it been this season and Zach was the quarterback, we'd be maybe looking at who knows, 2-4, maybe a 1-5, dare I say? So
yeah, it would feel worse. Yeah,
it'd be. And even by the way, I will say this in Aaron's defense: even if Zach was here and it was 2-4, it'd feel like a worse 2-4 than the Aaron 2-4.
It would feel like a
know?
2-4 with no hope. This feels like
Yeah.
a 2-4 with plenty of hope.
Yeah, if you say so. If Zach was here, I don't think Davante would be coming. So, right?
Davante would not know. The Jets
there
would
you
not
go.
be on the list of teams if Zach Wilson was the quarterback.
At the very least, Aaron's recruiting you players that may or may not help you or may or may not make things worse. Where
that
Zach
is true.
wouldn't be doing that.
There's no scenario in which Davante Adams hurts your team.
Ask the Raiders.
I think the Raiders have decided that he's been hurting them for long enough.
This organization is lousy to begin with. Like, there's nothing Davante Adams is going to do that makes it worse than it's already been for the last 40 years for me. In fact, what he does on a day after a loss is he gives me some excitement. Thank you, Davante Adams, and thank you, Woody Johnson, for going out and getting the wide receiver that I needed today. Whether or not they need him is a different story, but I needed Davante Adams today. You know what I got, Mike? I got Davante Adams today. And you know what I have now because of it? I have hope again. And that's the NFL. I mean, am I wrong?
You're not right.
I don't feel right. I don't. Greg, yesterday we were talking about holidays. Columbus Day has lost its luster.
Yeah. It really has.
Phrasing on that.
Oh, my God.
And I am told that you have a top 5 holidays.
I do.
that have lost its luster because you were thinking about it yesterday on the drive home from the show.
Yeah, I sure was.
Okay, I'm excited for this.
Yeah, I had an accident because I was taking notes and thinking about it too much, but no, we're good. I have.
Are you
the top-
okay?
He's joking.
Yeah. No, we're all good.
Any damage? Any other victims?
It's just a fender bender.
Okay.
Yeah, the guy took off.
Really?
Yeah.
You hit the guy and the guy took off.
It was crazy. Yeah.
What dumb luck, I guess.
It really was.
You get out of a ticket now. You don't have to call anyone unless you're going to self-report, which would be the noble thing to do, I suppose.
I drive an indestructible car.
Do you?
Yeah. If somebody, it's not made out of steel or metal.
What's it made out of?
It's like a fiberglass.
Yeah, carbon fiber maybe?
Yeah, it could be.
Yeah, okay.
And so when you hit me in the fender and there's initially a dent, magically it just pops itself out.
Wow.
Really?
Yeah, it's crazy.
Is that standard, or are you just something with your car special?
It's just the car.
Okay. You should bottle it up and sell it.
Yeah, I think it's pretty standard of
so
all
it is
models.
standard.
I think they're
That
selling
car.
it, yes.
Yeah.
All right.
You want a dent, though, don't you, in case, I mean...
Well, he crashed because he wasn't paying
No,
attention.
I was kidding about that whole thing.
Right, but if someone
Yeah.
crashes into
Oh,
you,
no
you do
way.
want the dent, do you not? You want a dent. You want to show your scars,
Yeah,
right?
you want the proof.
Yes.
Otherwise, you can't make an insurance claim.
Right.
Right.
That's what cameras are for.
I know, but when you
That's a
call
good
Anna
point.
Jar and Levine, you want to have a dent in your car. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Right. Thank you.
Yeah, or an
And a
injury.
police report.
And perhaps some neck pain. I mean...
Neck brace.
Yeah.
like
Just have in the back seat.
Like Mike Brady.
I carry a neck brace in my car just so I can have it on when the cops show up.
Do you really?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you have to.
Prepared, huh?
Right. You have to.
It's good to put that on record.
Now everyone knows.
What was your list?
A neck brace in the car.
Top 5.
What are we calling this list? The 5 most useless holidays, or
Your list.
It's your list.
Yeah.
Yes. I just said, listen, I said Columbus Day has lost its luster.
Right.
It used to be a bigger deal. I understand why it's lost its luster.
Right.
It deserves to lose its luster.
Sure.
Dad,
but
we're going to want you to own this list if
Yes.
you could.
I'm owning it.
You're just like, what's this thing called?
Right.
Okay,
What
it's-
number is
Well, he
it?
was in an accident yesterday.
It's
He
the
was, yeah.
5.
Be patient.
The 5 holidays that have most lost their luster.
Okay.
Number 5.
All right.
Oh, I don't have any imaging?
No. It
No.
happens after you say it.
Ah! Okay.
Number 5, you say it, then he'll play a sound.
Number 5, Arbor Day.
Did it ever have luster?
Well, you know, they're trees.
Right.
Like, trees live for 200 years. They're always there. Why are we celebrating them?
Because it provides oxygen.
This
That's a good
sounds
point by Roy.
This sounds like holidays we should not be celebrating.
Well, you can label it however you want. Number 4, President's Day. Folks, if I didn't vote for them, I ain't celebrating them.
Yeah.
Period.
You tell them.
Number 3, New Year's Day. Let's all celebrate the brand new year by crashing with a hangover and getting nothing done. Number 2.
What is it that you always make on New Year's Day?
Oh, black-eyed peas.
Yeah, you do.
That's
Oh,
an
yeah.
additional.
That's good luck.
New
Yeah,
Year's
that's
Day
good
is
luck.
a great sports day, Greg. I gotta disagree with you on that one.
You know, do you need the day off, though?
Yes.
Yeah, I want all of these days off.
Make
All
your-
hungover.
Make your own 5 holiday list.
Oh, come on.
Right.
I already did. Number 2 was Christmas.
How about you work this New Year's Day, huh?
Yeah, well, I don't need New Year's Day off. Number 2,
Okay.
Columbus Day.
Columbus Day.
Such a great holiday. They've quietly changed the name of it because not only did Columbus not really invent the Americas or discover the Americas, but he enslaved people. Number 1,
Jeez. Oh, no.
Labor Day.
So you had Columbus inventing America.
Yeah.
He
but he
discovered-
didn't.
Found America.
No,
He
but he
discovered
didn't.
the Americas.
Turns out he
Labor
didn't.
Day.
Kinda
Somehow that's
stumbled
number
into
2.
it, yeah.
That's number 2 somehow.
What's better to celebrate the American workforce than taking the day off? Labor Day, ladies and gentlemen. The top 5 holidays that have most lost their luster.
I don't think you understood
Great
your
list.
own
I
list.
think
Hey,
that's what I
man.
call
Hey,
them.
good effort.
You're
Good
saying,
effort.
you're saying it lost its
Yeah.
luster, but you're celebrating Labor Day. I mean,
Well, Labor Day is meant to celebrate work. So how do
No,
you
it's
you don't do
not.
that by taking the day off?
Labor.
Greg, you started out really well with Arbor Day.
Arbor Day.
I think you could have added Flag Day, maybe.
Oh, you know what? I had Flag Day,
Flag Day's a good one.
but
Hold on.
I didn't want to appear like unpatriotic. Like to me, if you make fun of Flag Day, you're making fun of the U.S.
But
flag.
President's Day is fine.
Yeah, President's Day is fine.
It's a collection of presidents, though. It's not just one.
You're celebrating all former U.S. presidents.
Has nothing to do with who you voted for.
I think it does.
You celebrating Taft?
It's his President's Day.
I'm not celebrating Taft. I didn't know Adams.
Did you vote for Taft?
Woodrow Wilson?
What was the first
Yeah,
election
what was-
in which you voted?
I hate to even admit
Was
it.
it
Please
Carter?
tell us. Please tell us.
Eisenhower.
Was it Nixon?
It was Nixon.
Whoa!
I had just turned 18 that September. And so I was registered to vote. And because my parents were both Republicans,
Wow.
the first vote I ever cast
Wild
was
Bill,
for
huh?
Richard Nixon.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever admitted that before and regret admitting
Tricky
it now.
Dick, he tricked you.
Nana was a Republican, huh?
Yeah, they were. As they got older, they like Uncle Dick. As they got older, their politics moved
Wait,
a little
Uncle
bit left.
Dick used to be a Republican?
Oh, big time.
Now he's the most he's the most left on
Oh, he is.
Facebook.
What
Yeah.
happened to
How about
Uncle
Georgie
Dick?
Lynott?
What?
I don't know. He
Good
changed.
question.
You know, he changed. I mean, he's got a Kamala Harris flag in his,
Georgie
window.
Lynott does?
Maybe he didn't change and the party did.
Yeah.
He didn't really go out on a limb. It looks like Nixon got 520 electoral votes.
Yeah. No, he was the president, so I cast a winning vote.
He dominated?
Yeah.
Yeah. Who'd you vote for in the next one?
Let's go through all your voting.
Oh,
Yeah.
I love this.
Yeah.
This is great.
At
This is
every
so
level.
good.
Yeah.
This man
No, let's
voted
not.
for Richard Nixon.
You weren't a George McGovern guy?
No, I
Gerald
was not.
Ford?
I mean, it's in his name.
At
He was
the
born
time.
to McGovern.
Who was your first Democratic president that you voted for?
I would have to look at the list. I mean, I've been around a while.
Right.
Ford,
you know.
Carter.
You're not going to take a quiz?
Jefferson.
I voted for Gerald Ford and regretted it. I was still voting Republican then. What was the one after
Wow.
that? I don't remember.
It was Carter, wasn't it?
No, Carter beat Ford. It's
Right.
good that we're doing this.
Yeah.
The
then
1976 election.
And then Reagan after that.
That was a big one, bicentennial, right, Greg?
Yeah, it was
what
a
were
big
you
one.
doing? How'd you celebrate the bicentennial?
I remember the bicentennial.
Yeah.
It was fabulous.
Didn't lose its luster.
No, it was great.
What'd you do?
You know, who can remember? I mean,
Fireworks?
grilled hot dogs.
Yeah.
Hankfurters.
Standard.
In your opinion, which was better, the bicentennial or the centennial?
Good question.
The bicentennial was a little bit better. I was
Spread
more
was a little
aware.
bit better.
Twice as good?
Yeah, it was twice as good, Roy. Thank you.
Time to throw away all journalistic
happened?
credibility and get reckless. Here is something we like to call...
I hit it.
All right.
You're good.
1980, Greg, was Reagan versus Carter. Did you think Carter did a great job? You didn't vote for him the first time. Do you think he did a good job? You kept him around, or did you go to Ronald Reagan over there?
I think I might have voted for Carter.
Or John B. Anderson as an independent.
Oh, you know what? I did vote for John Anderson.
Get out of here.
No, I did.
Oh,
no one
wow.
voted for Anderson.
Third party. Let's
I
go.
mean,
I remember to this day,
Let's hear our guy.
John Anderson had...
And Patrick Lucy.
What year would that have been, the John
Oh, he was
Anderson?
on
1980,
SportsCenter.
yeah.
So.
1980.
Yeah, he
John
just,
B.
he
Anderson.
just retired.
Got it.
I'm
singer?
really remembering some guys here.
John Anderson.
What a segment.
My favorite country singer, by the way, a different John Anderson.
And Sports Center.
really?
Yeah, John Anderson had a headquarters right on Coral Gables, right near UM. And I remember driving there and getting a Anderson bumper sticker.
Yeah.
And Shirley Chisholm, did you vote for her?
Who?
Shirley Chisholm.
I thought we were talking. No, presidential. I don't think she was on the ballot down here.
Oh, that's too bad.
Yeah, I don't think she was.
You had a John Anderson bumper sticker?
I did.
He
yeah.
doesn't look presidential, I'm going to be honest with you.
The only one.
This is
Behind the bit.
This is behind
The bit. This is behind
the bit.
A very serious retrospective series on some of your favorite Dan Le Batard Show with Stugotz bits.
Segue nicely here from a nice heartfelt conversation to a psychic. Wow. Natalie Young is joining us. Natalie, are you with us?
Hi, Natalie.
Hi, how are you guys?
Good. Thank you for joining us. The reason we wanted you on is that this is airing from 4 to 5 a.m., which I consider to be the dead hour, right in between late night and first light. Hearing me speak and seeing me, are you able to form any sort of a indication of the type of person I am, whether I'm doomed, whether I'm about to hit the lottery? Like, what can you tell about me just from having met me?
I just feel like you're a very strong-minded person, and usually what you put your mind to, you can almost always make happen. Lately, though, I think there's been sometimes a little bit of confusion, questioning yourself. Should I? Shouldn't I? Is this the right move? Is this not the right move? So you question yourself just a little bit sometimes.
Wow, that's a lot of baggage to unpack there for me. I haven't slept in 3.5 months. February was probably the last time I really got a good night's sleep. And right now,
and you need to change your underwear. I feel something about if you change your underwear more often,
Really?
then I think that might help.
Okay,
Especially with the interview. I don't know if you're meeting people, like communication better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You say you haven't slept in 3 months. It sounds like you're currently sleeping.
You know what? I can't disguise doing this at 4 a.m. It's tough.
10 more minutes. Let's go. Finish strong.
What do you see as the future of the Dan Le Batard Show with Stugotz as it sets sail in its new partnership with DraftKings?
I feel very positive about it. I feel extremely. I think it's going to go quickly and go well, and just start like exploding. I just feel good with it.
Great.
How tired were you in this clip?
Okay, first of all, I had to thank, in retrospect, I had to thank the Dan Le Batard Show for giving my podcast that coveted 4 to 5 a.m. slot on Freedom. It was what everybody wanted. You know, you go in the air at 4 a.m., you're golden. So thanks for that.
I don't know how tired Greg was. I know how tired I was because I was hours 16 in a marathon. I did not sleep at all that day. That was from Freedom. And to truly appreciate how weird Greg's portion of Freedom was, you almost have to watch the other 23 hours because it did legitimately happen in the wee hours of the morning. And his approach was pretty straightforward. Like, he came in with a plan, which is something that I appreciated. I was very curious at the direction that he took it, but it was so public access TV that it ended up being like my favorite part of that entire 24-hour marathon. It's really like one of the favorite things that we've ever done.
We also had
belly button doctor.
A belly button doctor from Tupelo, Mississippi, in a wood-paneled room. We had a lot of fun stuff going on.
To look at your belly button.
Yeah, I still have my protruding belly button there. It's also not a health issue, although it's still protruding. I forget what they call it.
You can show the audio. You can show them if you want. Show me your belly button.
Let's not do that. I'd actually forgotten what the psychic said, so it was fun to hear her again.
Whose idea was to have Greg interview a psychic?
Well, it wasn't my idea to have Greg interview a psychic. My idea was to give Greg an hour, and that hour be at an impossible time in the morning, because I wanted to highlight several of the talents that were either a part of our network or within our family. So Greg was very receptive to being given the shittiest time slot, which I loved. But in terms of like the production and what he was going to talk about, credit to him. He constructed the entire hour, which is all I wanted. I wanted Greg to do whatever he wanted for an hour, and I love the results.
Was Greg stalling for time?
That was Greg's bizarre cadence. It was early. We were all so tired. Yeah, it was just a tired Greg Cote just meandering through an hour with a psychic, with very strange guests. And like I said, it was a very public access TV. It was kind of like the Ed Wood portion of Freedom, and I look back on that fondly.
I'm glad that in that clip I called out your lack of energy, because it's all I was thinking about the whole time, of how tired you sounded.
That's why I always tell anybody who's listening to the podcast, whether my show or the Le Batard Show, please listen to it at 1.5 speed, because I sound much more listenable. I sound much younger when I talk faster. Somebody should invent something.
All right, we got it.
That like a voice, something you put on your voice that makes you sound like you're talking faster, like a 1.5. But that's a tangent.
So Greg, she got a little cheeky with you there with the underwear thing.
The underwear reference came out of nowhere. I don't know what that meant. You know, psychics. I'm not disparaging psychics, but I think
no, I feel like you're about to.
I can also say it's inaccurate. You know, I'm a serial underwear changer. I go through a lot of underwear, so on that count, she was wrong. But we're still happy to have had her on.
I feel like you go through a normal amount of underwear.
Well, what's a normal?
I feel like you just overstated your underwear.
What's a normal amount?
You know, 1 a day.
Like a vitamin.
Why did you guys do Freedom?
we wanted to do something big to announce our partnership with DraftKings, and we hadn't been as visible. We'd popped up occasionally on a Twitch stream here or there, but the visual component of what we had been doing had been away for several months. So we wanted a big way to reintroduce our visual component and kick off our formal partnership with DraftKings and announce Meadowlark as a company with something big.
It was us filling 24 hours of content, and like my dad said, he was handed the glorious 4 to 5 o'clock hour. So we just thought, there's gonna be no one really watching at this time. Let's have fun with it. So we leaned into my dad's cyst above his belly button. We leaned into my dad had the idea of the dead hour. So we were just like, what's the creepiest person we could have on? Psychic, grave digger. We just were like, let's get crazy. And one of our producers found this lady, and I honestly had forgotten most of like the stuff she said. It was pretty hilarious that apparently the Le Batard Show is going to explode soon. So we have that coming.
Didn't Freedom get weird in the late night hour?
That's a whole nother thing. Yes, there was a guy, because we had a ton of crew in for, we brought in a whole bunch of crew. So there was dozens of people that we didn't really know that were working this event. So there was one time when we were just kind of doing our show, and there was a guy standing in the shipping container for a good 3 or 4 hours. And like no one, because there were so many people coming around, no one really acknowledged it until a few hours in, people in the back were like, who's this guy standing right there? And then in hindsight, he was wearing thong sandals. That should have probably thrown off.
There was a dude that we had a major security breach, but there were a lot of new faces with Freedom, a lot of new video production people that we were using, and I guess someone took advantage of the fact that if you just kind of look official, you can maybe bypass the first level of security. Thankfully, in that moment, he was chill.
We've upped our security, so don't try that now, folks.
I don't believe it was my idea to go for 24 hours straight. I think in the moment, I was excited about the challenge, but after it was over, I agreed that we should never, ever do this again, and we haven't.
It was a horrible idea. I mean, it was. You know, armed with hindsight, 24 hours, live radio, bad idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, but your part was fantastic. You bailed us out, Greg.
You know what? I'm so honored that they chose my 4 to 5 hour for this bit here. What do you call it?
Behind the bits?
You got
Behind
it.
the
Yes.
bit.
You nailed it.
Behind the bit, because it was fun. I mean, at the time, it seemed like super horrible to have to do this at 4 a.m.
Yeah.
But looking back on it, it was very spoofy, very tongue-in-cheek.
Mm-hmm.
The psychic was great, but I think the belly button doctor in the wood-paneled den in Tupelo, Mississippi, may have actually been my favorite from that hour.
I am laughing because you and I were talking during the break, and you have a never-ending quest of getting Pete Rose into the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
Wow.
No, I do.
It's a crusade, man.
It's almost to crusade level, and I'm a voting member of the BBWAA.
Yeah.
So I have a little bit to say. You know, I can use an ounce of influence to try to get this done. I think it's terrible that he wasn't allowed on the ballot while he was living, but now posthumously, I think it would be fair to do it. I'm not saying he deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. Let him in. I'm saying let him be on the ballot. Let the voters decide whether he has paid enough penance, whether his lifetime ban should end when his life did, and now he should have a chance. And I really believe that.
Is this the extent of your crusade, just that?
Pretty much.
Okay.
Yeah,
Just,
I'm not
just
gonna
saying this. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not
right.
going to rent a billboard.
All right, because you said that it was never ending. I was just wondering exactly, because at first I hear of it, but I'm not super plugged in all the time to the happenings of Greg Cote, so I was curious.
We could probably get Dan to pay for a billboard for you.
That's not
you'd
enough
like.
of the billboard.
Okay, let's go for it.
But Walter Mondale.
Who did he run against?
Reagan, for Reagan's second term.
He voted Reagan.
I think I voted Mondale.
Really?
And
What?
I credit it. Yeah.
He only won one state. It was his home state of Minnesota, and he won it by 4,000 votes. Other than that, it was a clean sweep for Reagan.
Yeah, I regretted that because I actually thought, as Republicans go, I actually thought Reagan was a pretty good president.
Do you care that you're going against Pete Rose's wishes in your crusade to get him on the ballot? We had him on the show. We played a clip.
Yeah.
Moments after news circulated that he had passed.
Yeah,
and
he didn't mean it.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Do we have that clip so
That's
the
the thing you
audience
say.
can hear
Well, he just it's something for the living.
Right.
He thought
It
it's
should have
something for
been.
your family to enjoy, and he's like, don't do that to me when I'm gone because I get nothing out of it.
Yeah, my crusade, a little bit selfish that attitude.
Your crusade died when he died?
No, my crusade goes on.
Right.
Against Pete's wishes, apparently.
Yes.
I want him on the ballot.
Yeah, but I also think that's kind of BS. Like, okay, make a lot of other people feel good, but the guy that deserved to feel best about it isn't here. So
I think there's a bigger vantage point, a bigger view than that. I think the view is baseball history and what's fair and what isn't. And I've always said, as a voter, that I think if you let somebody in, like a Pete Rose, like a Roger Clemens, that the reason it took them a while to get in should be on that bronze plaque for eternity. If Rose ever gets in, it should absolutely say that he had this betting scandal, that it kept him out for years, that he deserved to be kept out for years, but then in 2025, this happened and he finally got in. I think all of that should be laid out on the bronze plaque.
Are you making it into the Hall of Fame, though, if you're not there physically, if you're dead, right? Does that really feel like making it into the Hall of Fame? Mike is right. Like, you want to do these things when you're living.
True, but and they should have. But this is a little bit of a chance to right a wrong.
Yes.
And, throughout sports history.
No, but right the wrong when he's alive to enjoy it.
But there have been plenty of people posthumously inducted into halls of fame throughout sports. So he would be one. And it's a shame that they didn't forgive him. MLB's inability to forgive followed him to his grave. And I think that's a terrible thing. But there is a chance on some small measure to right or wrong here.
Let's play that sound of Mike Ryan and Pete Rose.
in the future, several decades from now, let's say Major League Baseball then makes the decision after Pete Rose is long gone to enshrine him in Major League in the Major League Baseball Hall of Fame. How would you feel about that?
Well, that would, to be honest with you, I wouldn't want to go in the Hall of Fame because I think the Hall of Fame, okay, and don't get me wrong, the Hall of Fame is for two things. It's one for the player, and it's three things. His family, okay, his fans, and his teammates and everything that was everybody who was associated.
That's more
with
than three.
It don't help me when I'm 6 feet under. How the hell is that going to help anybody?
They couldn't know it.
I mean, I still go out. Today, I'll go out and try to sell the game of baseball, and I'm not even in the game of baseball. But you guys will agree, my name is synonymous with the game of baseball. I have all the records. You know, and that's all baseball is statistics. It's all about statistics. All you guys on TV talk about how many home runs you got, how many RBIs you got, how many runs you got, how many Gold Gloves you win, how many MVPs you win, you know, how many World Series you play in. Those are all questions that I can answer with no hesitation at all.
Greg, it seemed by your facial reactions there that you don't buy what Pete Rose is selling.
No, I mean, he's saying that as a living person still trying to be inducted, still hoping that baseball forgives and changes its mind, in effect. But in terms of this is for the player and his family, how about this is for millions of Reds fans who maybe appreciated your career?
Are you talking to the clip? It looks like you're talking to the clip.
Pete's being selfish then.
I don't think he's being selfish. I think he's being unrealistic, and I don't believe he believed what he said.
Huh. All right. Well, we have a little bit of a backlog here in terms of seances. We still need to talk to Don Shula to remove the Dolphins curse. You said you were interested in doing that with the medium.
Yeah,
so we
we're
do a
working on
seance.
it. Yeah.
Is it in poor taste to try to reach out to Pete so soon after his passing? Should we give him time to reacclimate himself to the afterlife? What do you think?
I don't know the statute of limitations on that. Like when one passes away, is one instantly eligible for a seance? Or is there a period of time, like you have to serve a year underground, so to speak, before you then become eligible to contact through a seance? I honestly don't know the rules on that.
Well, here's the thing. So Pete voluntarily agreed to be put on the ineligible list because he thought that a year from when he voluntarily agreed to be ineligible, he could potentially be reinstated. Now, that never happened. So you're wondering if there's such a list in the afterlife as well, that you have a year that you need to get reacclimated and then you can be reached out to.
I do wonder that. And I have an answer for people who say, well, he agreed to a lifetime ban. Yes, he did. And sometimes criminals who do far worse crimes and sins than Pete Rose ever did are sentenced to life. and sometimes for whatever reason, that sentence is commuted and they're eligible for parole. In effect, I believe Pete Rose should have been paroled late in his life.
Well,
and
He had other issues too.
He was accused of other crimes.
I understand.
You understand that?
feel like
and
we should
still,
mention.
Standard seance is a year after you die.
Is it?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
there you go.
Is
Right.
it?
Well, I looked it up.
How are we talking about this before we're talking about any of the MLB playoff games that actually happened
Well,
yesterday?
it's Pete Rose, Charlie Hustle.
Yeah.
Big win for the
How
Yanks.
did this come up?
I don't know. It came up during. Was it a big win for the Yanks?
Yeah, ALCS. That's a big win.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I guess. I'm very excited about the Mets. Lindor has become
Hang
one
on.
of the most popular figures.
Let me ask Jeremy real quick. Jeremy, you like baseball. Is that a big win?
I don't know if it is.
No, just nod yes or no. Yeah, he says it's a big win.
I don't know. It's not that big of a win. It's game one of the ALCS. I mean,
Stugotz also said he'd rather the Jets win than the Mets yesterday.
you know, everyone thought the Dodgers game one was a big win. You know what the Mets did the very next day? Less than 24 hours later, they came back and they had a big win. That's all I'm saying.
I think at this stage they're all big.
They're all big wins and big losses.
I feel strongly about this.
How in retrospect, Stugotz, are you grading yesterday? Because you said headed
Whoa.
into yesterday, it could potentially be
So-
one of the biggest days of your life,
Yeah.
happiest days of your life.
Yep.
And then given the option, you said you'd rather the Jets win than the Mets win. Now the Jets lost, but
Yeah.
the Mets won. So
Yeah.
how are we feeling?
But the Islanders won at Colorado.
They did. It started off as an A with the Mets winning that game against the Dodgers. I would say about halftime of the Jets-Bills game, it went from like an A down to a B because the game was still very
the
much in
halftime
doubt.
was the Hail Mary.
It was. I know it was a C+ before the Hail Mary. I upgraded it to a B once they converted the Hail Mary. And then it went down in totality because I did want the Jets to win over the Mets. When the night was over, it went down to a C-. But then they signed and traded for Davante Adams, and I'm right back to an A.
Wow.
In fact, it's an A+. I would say the totality
These are
of
different days.
yesterday and half of today, okay? I am factoring in half of today, A+. A+ for New York.
Wow.
I got a loss, that's fine, but I got a wide receiver.
Right. Plus, you got the Liberty evening the WNBA finals.
And that as well,
That
yes.
was Sunday. That doesn't count. We were just talking about Monday.
Matty Barzal got a goal.
Mm-hmm. Listen, again, I'm giving it an A+. Like, I don't know what to tell you. I got an Islanders victory. I got a wide receiver and a Mets game 2 much needed victory. So I feel good.
Are you hitting the panic button if you're the Avalanche?
Yes.
I mean, they're going to get some guys back, you got to
Yeah.
think. But, I mean, top 6 is not what it used to be.
No.
How about Pete Alonso?
What about him?
Polar bear.
That run.
What about it?
Did you see it?
Did you watch? Do you watch the Mets? Do you
Why
actually
are you
watch the
guys
Mets?
focused on Peter Alonso and the run? Lindor hit a home run.
Why do you call him Peter?
Well, because
That's his name.
his friends call him Peter.
His mama called him Peter.
I mean, what do you want me to call him?
I thought it was Pete. No?
It's Peter.
Most people call him Pete.
Yeah. Well, most people call him Polar Bear. But I am more focused on the Lindor home run and the fact that the Mets lineup is so good that they intentionally walked Lindor to get to Vientos, I think, and he had a grand slam against the Dodgers. So you want me to focus on Peter Alonso's run? No. I focus on home runs.
You know
That's
what
I do.
Lindor's nickname should be?
What, Frankie?
The Chocolatier.
I don't think that should be his nickname.
Why not?
I'm going to start calling him that. I will.
Yeah, thank you.
Chocolatier.
I am worried about Billy
Are
because
you worried about Pete Alonso tweaking his oblique
No, I'm
late in
not.
the game?
I'm not worried about anything. I'm worried about you because you keep whispering gambling advice into my headsets.
What?
Billy doesn't think I know what happened towards the end of the game.
Wait, Pete Alonso is hurt?
Yes.
Is he?
Yeah. Hurt his paw.
Wait, what's happening? Like, what's happening?
His dad?
Is he actually hurt?
Stugotz isn't worried about the injury. So.
I'm not even worried about baseball. I mean,
Exactly.
got a wide receiver.
He hurt his oblique, you were saying?
Paw.
I'm not,
His
Yeah,
paw.
we got
Yes.
it. Yeah.
Polar bear.
not seeing that. Not seeing that.
I am concerned about Billy because Billy keeps, and he's never done it. I've known Billy for a long time. He never gives me or asks me for gambling advice, but he peppers me all day today in my headset, asking me my thoughts on the Patriots taking on the Jacksonville Jaguars, which brings us to against the spread.
I don't understand how Stugotz was concerned about an injury that didn't actually
Yeah, it didn't
happen.
happen.
You can tell me anything at this point. I got a wide receiver.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Matty Barzal.
I got Davante, man.
That's right. It's time for
Against the Spread. The best wide receiver we've had since Al Toon.
And it's brought to you by DraftKings. Stay tuned because you're going to hear all about DraftKings and all it has to offer throughout the show. DraftKings, the crown is yours. Roy, start us off.
All right, we got, I'm sorry, Mike, you were going to say something?
He's not even the best wide receiver on his own team right now.
All right, we got Guardians and Yankees today. I can tell you that the Guardians have won 9 consecutive Tuesday road games. So I had to get that weird stat out there.
Really?
It's baseball. All right.
Write that trend.
Yeah.
Write that down.
The Guardians in their last 6 games against the American League East, all the games have gone under on the total run line. And Garrett Cole has allowed 5 or more hits in his last 4 playoff appearances. So I'm going to go with the Guardians, who are underdogs in this game. They're underdogs in this game by a run and a half against the spread.
Against the spread. Jess, what do you got?
Well, last week I had Purdue not covering. I had Illinois covering Purdue 19 points and ended up being a 1-point game in overtime just to spite me. So I'm going to go with another spite pick. Aaron Rodgers and the Jets. They're going to win. They're going to cover 1.5 against the Steelers on Sunday Night Football just to spite me again.
Against the spread.
Against the spread.
So win-win for you. Well done.
Mike.
Thank you.
Yep.
That's how you do it.
There's a couple emotional games on the NHL docket tonight. You have Columbus hosting the Stanley Cup champion Florida Panthers, their first home game of the season after the tragedy that fell upon the Gaudreau family. I look for Columbus to hang in that game, but also the Tampa Bay area affected by the most recent hurricane. They beat the Carolina Hurricanes in their first game of the season. They're at home taking on a Vancouver Canucks team that is traveling across the country. So let's lay that puck line for Tampa Bay. That has already shown you they can do the emotional thing. So let's take them at home minus 1.5 plus 165. I'm taking the Lightning against the spread.
Billy, bring us home.
I'm conflicted on this one, Stugotz, and as he mentioned, I was talking to him throughout Beyond the Bit because I had 2 games that I had my eye on. I had the Patriots plus 5.5 at the Jaguars in London.
Wow.
Now, this past weekend, the Jaguars did not look good, but they are in their second home. They were on the road in London, but now they're at home in London, and they're hosting the Patriots. Drake May came in last week, and the question now is, Drake maybe or Drake maybe not?
Good question.
He looked like maybe last week. Now, he had a couple interceptions, but he also had a dime that looked like an incredible pass to Keyshawn Boutte. It was the longest air pass that they've had in 3 seasons. Some of interception, a little bit of bad luck. But plus 5.5, they have to go across the pond to get reacclimated there. I'm not sure. Then I was looking at the Lions, plus 2.5 against the Vikings. Vikings are undefeated. Lions looked great last week. Now, they lost Aiden Hutchinson. How is that going to impact them? I don't know. Is the team going to rally
make the
around
pick.
or not? I'm sorry.
He's
Sometimes
rolling, Roy.
I give some information, then I don't give enough information.
Sometimes you give information about an injury that's just made up.
Well, you know what?
Aiden Hutchinson is actually hurt.
He's actually
that one's
hurt.
legit.
Yeah.
I saw that one.
Yeah.
I saw that
Got
one
injured.
happen.
Yeah, he got
Man,
hurt.
hurt
Out for the year.
Peter Alonso, not so much.
No.
I'm going to take the Patriots plus 5.5
Paw.
against the Jaguars in London.
Yeah.
You guys hate information? I don't understand. We're trying to, guys. There's a responsibility here.
Yes.
People, if they're listening to us, they're spending their hard-earned money on this. We owe it to them to put some effort into this.
You know what? I appreciate you.
Yeah,
To
appreciate
at least
that.
sound like we know what we're talking about.
Seconds removed from you saying Pete Alonso hurt his opponent.
Well, that was a little tricky
His
situation because Stugotz said he was watching the game, so we were testing, and then his response to the injury is like, I know what happened. I saw the injury.
Yeah. Here's what I know. This is what I know happened yesterday in the game. The Mets went long ball a couple of times. They won the game. We move on to game 3. That's it. I do like baseball. I'm watching baseball now. I haven't watched baseball during the regular season. I didn't watch baseball during the regular season. I'm not going to be criticized for not watching baseball during the regular season.
Did you watch it yesterday?
And I'm not going to be told that I'm jumping on the bandwagon of my New York Mets, who I've been a fan of since 1981.
Well, hold on a second. Can you say I did not watch this team the entire regular season, but I will not be accused of jumping on the bandwagon by following them in the postseason?
I have been a fan for 40 years of this team. If I take a regular season off, big deal.
Sounds like
they
you've
have
been
taken several regular seasons off, and I'm still there every single year rooting for that team.
You can't say that you've been a fan for 40 years, though. You've been a fan for 38 years because you haven't watched them over the last 2.
Just because you don't watch doesn't mean you're not a fan.
Correct.
I hate
Great
that.
point. Yeah,
I mean, I hate that. Just because I don't watch all the games means I'm not a fan. Just because I don't watch any of the games, I'm not a fan. I mean, I watch the games that matter. And in baseball, these are the games that matter.
You're a casual fan.
I'm a casual fan at this
casual.
point.
There you go.
I'm a casual Mets fan.
You're a casual.
I have earned the right to be a casual Mets fan.
When do the games start counting? Like, when do they matter? Because yesterday you seemed like you were a little half in, half out. Like, now, Game 3 of the NLCS. Game 3 when we turn it on?
Game 3 matters.
All right.
Yeah. Game 1s don't
Rubber
matter
match,
to
yeah.
me.
Not even clinching a playoff spot.
I mean, Game 1 to me is the least important game of a best-of-7 series.
Okay, but
Yeah.
let me ask you this then.
I mean,
let me ask you this.
why would I focus on that? I mean,
Okay, if the Yankees lose
right.
Game 1,
Yes.
can you imagine the scenario going around right now? The Yankees, the World Series favorite, loses the opener at home. Oh my gosh, Armageddon, overreaction. That's why the Yankees winning the opener was big.
Yeah, but it's just Game 1. So
I know, but panic ensues.
Right.
If you're the World Series favorite and you lose the opener at home.
Listen, I understand it. You would like to win Game 1, okay? It sets the series. You have the right momentum moving forward. I get all of it, right? It doesn't matter if you win Game 1. That's all I'm saying. In a best-of-7, I wonder what the odds are of the teams who win Game 1 that go on to win the series. Because I bet you it's like a coin toss. I bet you it's like 50%. Mike, you think it's greater than that?
I think, I do think it's greater than a coin
I would think it's high 50s.
I would say,
if I'm guessing.
I would argue close to 70%.
Oh, wow. That would be surprising.
70% of the teams who won Game 1 go on to win a best-of-7
in that sport,
series.
Yeah, I would say it's a safe bet that more times than not, if you win Game 1, you win the series.
But to answer your question, Greg, I start paying attention Game 3 of the NLCS.
Okay.
Right. So if you can make it that far, I'll start paying.
Yeah.
I'll start paying attention.
So you're going to watch the next game?
Maybe.
Okay.
Well, you're off tonight. It switches back over to New York tomorrow. So
3 games at Citi Field. Yeah, I'd like to go to one, but can't make that happen. Road trip, group trip. What do you guys think?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's not what a casual sports fan does, though. You can't. A casual sports fan will watch it maybe on the second TV with no sound.
A very serious fan would actually hop on a bird, attend the game.
Right.
Yeah.
But you're a serious fan now because it's Game 3.
Listen, I was trying to make the larger point that I've watched baseball now for the last couple of days, and the game is sped up in a way where I could see myself coming back to baseball again during the regular season next year.
Yeah.
But I took a year or 2 off from baseball, and I'm not going to apologize for it.
don't apologize. It's fine.
I'm not. I mean,
so what are you thinking? You're thinking game 5? Game 3, 4, and 5, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Game 5?
I'm thinking
5 o'clock first pitch.
Yeah.
Come in here. You're out by, I don't know, at 11 or so. Hop on a bird.
Yeah.
Go up to game 5.
You want to go with it?
All right, you buying?
Yeah.
Sure.
I mean, Dan is ultimately, but we still have the NFC if the season ended today. Kornhacke is out by the board. We'll get to him in just a second. But Greg, Dan is in California. He'll be back next week. Yesterday, Dan conducted an interview with Doug Emhoff. Do you know who Doug Emhoff is?
Sure, the perhaps future president's husband.
The second gentleman.
He is the first second gentleman ever. So Dan was out there. He spent about 20 minutes with him. The full interview is out on South Beach Sessions today. Let's play a clip from it.
You said that communication is key, but she couldn't communicate with you immediately to tell you that Joe Biden had stepped down, correct? You were busy in spin class, right?
That was right. So it was, I was in LA. It was during that weekend when all the planes were down because of the software glitch. So I had to spend an extra day in LA. I decided to go to a cycling class with some friends, and it was an hour class, and we were just chit-chatting. I had my phone in the Secret Service car, so I didn't have my phone. And then my friend's partner just showed me his phone with the letter from President Biden, and I'm like, gotta go, and just ran into the car, and there was my phone, literally, like, you could feel the steam, 7 or 8 messages, all with, where are you, call Kamala, and it was a 1 minute or less conversation, which started with, where the F were you? I need you right now, and basically get to work. and I did.
You run out sweaty? Are you wearing the tight biking shorts? Do you have those clackety-clack spikes on, the whole thing? Or
I try not to do the tight biking shorts, so I just do like the long old school, Nike basketball shorts, which probably aren't great for spin class. But I was drenched in sweat. I took the clackety-clack shoes off, and the car wasn't exactly on the curb, so it was still a couple of 100 yards of old guy half running, trying to get to that car to jump on the phone and get in the mix.
All right, again, that full interview is out on South Beach Sessions today. Dan went out to L.A. to do a Zoom interview with Doug Emhoff.
Wow. Yeah.
But look at that lighting.
Oh, it's great.
Doug's trying to be happy and jovial there, and Dan's looking very serious.
Yes, he is.
It is interesting how much both parties are using podcasts the last few weeks. I'm being honest. Like, Trump's going on a bunch, Kamala's done a bunch, and now he's with Dan.
Why is that interesting to you or surprising to you?
I just think, I guess obviously they're trying to get votes, but it just seems like a choice because they haven't always done it. But it seems like the last couple months there's been like a real push to get out there.
It just seems with one candidate, Trump is going on podcasts that the audience largely is already voting for him. So I don't think anybody's actually. Nothing over the last 8 years has seemingly changed anybody's mind. So
right.
They're going there because they can control the questions a little bit easier. Although I know Dan's already given voices to where he's a little bit trickier of a podcast. But this is all very thought out. They prefer this over a network sit-down interview where they'll be held accountable by the rules and regulations of true journalism.
Yeah, the Greg Cote show has reached out to Kamala. Her people haven't gotten back to us yet, but we're hopeful. So we'll see about that.
Greg, as a journalist, would you agree to that? Would you let them see the questions before you ask?
There are exceptions there, and that's a very good journalistic question. A couple of years ago, this is before Deion Sanders went to Colorado, I had an opportunity to get him on the podcast because, related to some Orange Blossom special he was game he was in, and he insisted that I refer to him as Coach Prime during the interview, and I didn't agree to do it, so we never had him on. I would make an exception to get someone like Doug Emhoff. Like I would agree to that because these people, they have so little time. That's why you only get them for 20 minutes. And of course they want to know what you're going to talk about. Of course they do. And understandably so. So yeah, I would make that journalistic exception.
We asked Matt Barnes about it because All the Smoke had Kamala Harris on it, and we asked about how you were exposed as someone that's trying to pursue objectivity and journalism. And a lot of these podcasts have to ask themselves a question. Do we make it known to our audience? Do we just try to ride this and understand that the access to this person is something that the audience will largely favor more than having a no-holds-barred interview? Each podcast has to ask themselves that question.
Don't you think the audience, for the most part, is accepting of, okay, my favorite show wants to get this guest on, and the way they have to do it is by agreeing to let them see the questions first?
I think generally, yes. I think generally
Yes.
audiences are okay with that. I think you'll have a vocal portion of your audience that will try to call you out on that, and they're certainly well within their rights. It's just, like I said, generally people's minds are made up this late in the game. So I think it also falls into where people are just viewing the political landscape as well. But I would we're a different show now. If I were EP, I'd have my questions about it too, because I was very much a hardliner on we don't screen questions, but even occasionally certain guests would pop up that certain things are off the table. Then you go to your host, you ask, this thing is off the table. Are you at all interested in asking this person about that? Can you still manage doing an interview about that? If we do go forward with this interview, what is the messaging going to be? I don't think we were asking ourselves the same questions as, Call Her Daddy or other podcasts, Bussin' with the Boys or whatever. Like they all have different standards. Podcasts are a different game.
Yeah, not all podcast hosts are journalists. I actually listened to the Call Her Daddy interview because I was curious how it went, and I thought it was really, really well done. And there wasn't any gotcha questions or anything like that. It was clear that they agreed to make the conversation about women's reproductive rights, and it came across very strong from her. And I thought overall the the questions and the answers were very, very informative. And if that's what you're trying to do as a campaign, is to inform people about what your policies are, then this is a pretty successful route of doing it. And I've read that the listenership for that audience is very spread across the entire country. The age demo is very young, which is a demographic that this campaign, I think, is trying really hard to reach. So I think it's probably a good strategy to get her on shows like that.
I also think you need to appreciate the candidate's position and the spot that they're potentially in. If you're interviewing Doug Emhoff without any holds barred, and you do have the gotcha question that results in an embarrassing answer, it goes viral, it becomes a national story less than a month before the election. The pitfalls are extreme if an interview like that doesn't go well for Doug Emhoff.
It's also part of most podcasts are pre-taped. It's been rare. Most of the stuff that we've done over the course of 20 years, 98% live. There have been a couple of times where we had an interview that was either pre-taped before this new era of the show that people had issues with, and we would have conversations with higher-ups and internally, how do we handle this? And sometimes the answer, more often than not, the answer is we're not changing this. Sorry you feel that kind of way. It's a failed attempt by public relations people, but they're doing their job too. This is a bad look. This is not a look that we prefer. Let's try to stop it. It's a delicate balance. This show's a little bit more unique in that the standards of the host in particular, given his journalism chops, as Jess outlined, we still kind of adhere to that.
Yes.
And also, it's just also what drives Dan. He doesn't have to be a conventional journalist to have those same principles. And I'm sure there have been people in the podcast industry that have passed on these opportunities because of that. There's all sorts of rumors that Joe Rogan is going to talk to one or maybe both of the candidates. Historically, he hasn't talked to people actually running for the office. He's talked to politicians before. He's talked to people that have been eventually gotten to run for higher offices, but like legitimate candidates, he's kind of stayed away from that in his past.
Dan has been very consistent with that in terms of, no, you're not going to tell me what to ask, and who to ask and when I'm going to ask it. Like, he has been consistent as far as that is concerned. Did I hear you correctly in saying that the stipulation that Deion Sanders had was you had to call him Coach Prime?
Yes.
And you said no to that?
Yeah.
What?
He's not my coach. It's a made-up nickname. I just wasn't willing to do it.
But if what separates
silly.
you from getting Deion on your show or on your podcast or writing an article is you just have to call him Coach Prime, that seems pretty benign.
Well, he made people do that at Jackson State. He made journalists do that during his press conferences.
Yeah, I'm just saying I'd take it. Like,
But
I want to
Greg's a
get Deion.
journalist.
I understand that, but
No, I'll admit, I had second thoughts because he
Right.
would have been a nice guest for my podcast.
I know.
I did have second thoughts, but I just, at the time.
Strangest line ever drawn in the sand.
What's that?
Just you right there. Like
That's
nope,
what I'm
that's
saying.
too far.
Right.
Coach Prime, can't do it. Really want him on my pod. Wait, I have to call him Coach Prime? Nope.
That's the way I felt. That's the decision I made at the time.
And really, all you have to do is introduce him as Coach Prime. Then you don't have to address him
How
the
is
rest
Greg
of the time.
the
Right.
ridiculous one in this scenario?
Thank you, Jess.
It's ridiculous to ask someone to call you that. I'm sorry.
Not only to ask, to insist.
It's
as
very
a
silly.
prerequisite. Yeah, I agreed. I thought it was silly.
I mean, I understand why Greg did it, but I find it ridiculous to not do the interview because you have to call him Coach Prime. Just call him Coach Prime.
To me, it's something to have fun with. Like, I'd ask him about it. Like, Coach Prime, I've been told to call you that. Why do, like, as opposed to being like, not doing the interview.
Okay.
Right.
This is
All
below my standard.
You,
Like, what?
you call him Deion and just see how quickly he's going to hang
I'm with
up,
you. It's
right?
ridiculous, but to just be like, not doing it is just not gonna happen.
Aren't you the producer? You could have
I don't even remember this.
suggested this.
It was a while ago. It was like early. It was whenever Jackson State was playing in the Orange Blossom Classic, which was a while ago. I'm not sure exactly when that would have been.
I want to ask Mike, as the former EP of this show, if Deion Sanders called in and the stipulation was Dan had to call him Coach Prime, your reaction would have been what?
I think, are we live and I'm finding this information out? I talked to Dan during one of the breaks. I say, like, this is one of the stipulations. Do you want to make a decision now? Do you want to make content out of it where we say, hey, we've been afforded the opportunity to speak with Coach Sanders? One of the stipulations is that we call him Coach Prime. We've also often crowdsourced that stuff. Like,
Yes.
Do we go ahead and do that? We'd take a gauge, especially on something that's like, I'm with you, Greg. I think it's a ridiculous thing, but also at the heart of it, it's silly. Like, does this concession really mean that much to my convictions? I don't know.
Yes.
So I wouldn't have any problem crowdsourcing that.
It's the rare time where both sides are being ridiculous. He's being ridiculous for making you call him Coach Prime, and you, Greg, as much as I love you, are being ridiculous for not taking Deion Sanders because you had to call him Coach Prime.
Keep in mind, this is pre-Colorado Deion Sanders when his...
Now you do it?
I think it's still a thing. Like, I think it's still a thing that he insists. I actually, I thought you were, initially I was half paying attention. I thought you were talking about something that's in the news cycle because I've seen journalists talk about this, this Coach Prime thing. What I would do is I'd call him Coach Prime initially and then just like see how far I can take it afterwards.
You fire one off.
You gotta just call him Coach and see how that lands. Just call him Prime, see how that lands.
No, you're right. In retrospect, I could have done that very easily. And I also could have made content of it out of it by saying, why do you insist on being called Coach Prime? In which case the interview might have ended right there. But
you should have had your demands. I'll call you Coach Prime. You call me
Mr. Cote.
Yeah, well, the difference is with Dan, as Mike alluded to, he absolutely would have made that content and would have made fun of Deion Sanders for doing that.
Yeah.
He might have just challenged Deion within the interview. Now, your people are telling me I have to call you Coach Prime. Why is that so important? Dan's a little bit different, though, than most podcast hosts for many different reasons.
Greg, are you interested in what would happen in the NFC if the season ended today?
Oh, my God. I've been wondering about that.
Okay, let's
How
go
do we
out.
find out?
Let's go out to Steve Kornacki.
Wow.
We are back in Kornacki's corner, Stugotz, and it's time to take a look at the NFC, led by VP candidate Tim Walz' Minnesota Vikings. They currently have a 93% chance to make the postseason at the end of the schedule, but right now they'd be the 1 seed. Let's take a look at the matchups. In the hunt, you have the Bears, the Eagles, the Cowboys, and the Seahawks. The Eagles in the swing state of Pennsylvania at the highest percent chance outside of the current playoff picture to make the postseason. But when we look at the matchups, you have the 49ers and the Lions, two complete teams looking to have a chance to compete here in the 4 and 5 seeds. Then, of course, we head up to Washington, D.C., where all of our presidential candidates hope to be. Those Washington Commanders taking on Baker Mayfield and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And then, of course, a battle of the swing states. Atlanta's Falcons in Georgia, and then, of course, the Green Bay Packers in Wisconsin. That's how things are looking over here in Kornacki's corner as the tie adjusts, and we will not see any level of tie come the postseason.
Thank you, Kornacki.
Kind of an admission to make.
Yeah.
I've kind of become a Bucs fan.
Because of Baker.
Organically, yeah. I'm watching them. Like, anytime the games are on TV, I find myself rooting for them. And
he's a gamer, man.
He is. Did you see him running 50 yards downfield, throwing a
Yes.
lead block? It was great.
I love him. I love watching him play. I cannot believe the Browns are stuck with Deshaun Watson when they had Baker Mayfield. Like, it's amazing. But he is
you
fun
can
to
believe
watch.
anything bad that goes that happens to that organization, though.
The Browns,
of course, like very few precious organizations can find a way to blow this up as badly as the Cleveland Browns did. They had a quarterback that set rookie passing records, that won a playoff game at Pittsburgh, and they pushed him out the door.
I got a wide receiver.
I did something really stupid on Sunday.
Yeah.
I tried to rush soup season in Miami. I ended up eating soup at my table, just sweating because it was so hot out, and I was eating soup. But now we're getting a little cold front, and I think it might finally be almost actual soup season here.
Really?
By cold front, I mean like 82.
What was the soup?
It was a Italian wedding soup.
This is hilarious to me because as somebody who's lived in South Florida my entire life, I have no idea about soup season. For me, I can eat soup like on the hottest day of the year. If I'm at a restaurant, I'll take a cup of soup in any weather.
I literally thought I had a fever. I was eating the soup and I was like, I'm so hot right now. Why is it so hot?
I eat soup year round too, but I have a deep appreciation for soup season, and I celebrate. I celebrate it by cooking more soups.
I
love making soups.
When is the official start of soup season? Is there a...
Yes, the official start of soup season is the morning that you wake up and you walk outside and you feel a crisp in the air.
Oh, really?
That's when soup season starts.
That seems unofficial, but I understand what you're saying.
No, it's very
Right.
official. When
Right.
you walk outside and you take a deep inhale and you say, It's football season. That's soup season also.
Okay.
When Andy Reid's glasses stop fogging up.
Soup season. Yeah.
Soup season.
Soup is fun to cook.
Greg,
Is
you used to give us like soup recipes.
Soup tips.
That's true. Soup of the day. Yeah, I did.
What happened to that?
Soups of the
That's a
day.
good question. Yeah, we'll bring it back, Jack. No, we will. I love. I want everybody to tell me their favorite soup.
Matzo ball.
You like matzo ball?
I love it.
Just had
Yeah.
matzo ball the other day.
Well, thank
How
you
do we
for
how do we
revealing
feel
that.
how do we feel about
Putting
like,
it out there, huh?
ethnic foods? Because for me, it's like pho and ramen are my favorite types of soups. But are we counting those as soups?
I'll eat an entire thing of
No.
ramen without the spoon. I just eat all the I get the liquid when it's, but I don't really use the spoon at all.
I made an
for ramens.
unbelievable yellow curry, spicy chicken noodle soup the other day.
Wow.
And I also thought I had a fever because I jumped the gun on soup season, but this was delicious.
Right.
So you
I
can
would
relate.
say, you know how baking is your core culinary skill? I think souping.
Soup is yours.
Souping is mine.
Yeah,
I'm the
soup.
kind of house where we always have a stock on the. We have a little
On the
stock
pot, on the
going.
stove?
We will
Yeah.
catch a fish. We'll make a little fish stock.
Homemade
we'll go get
stock,
a
you
chicken.
have
He'll make
to.
a little chicken stock.
Yeah.
We always have frozen stock in the freezer.
Turkey
Right.
after
Lots of
Thanksgiving.
stock. Any soup is anything you eat with a spoon. That is, it can be cold, but it's generally warm.
Yeah, if you can slurp it, it's soup.
What is your
Oh, yeah.
favorite soup? Since you asked the question and no one answered.
You know, it varies. It goes back and forth. Right now, my current favorite soup is sausage and lentil.
Really?
I love lentils.
I thought for sure you were going to say clam chowder.
No, I mean that's in my top 10 for sure. But is chowder a soup? There's
Yeah.
a controversy
Yes.
there.
Yes.
Chowder's
Yeah?
a soup.
Okay.
What
Yeah.
is the controversy with chowder?
Some people don't think chowder is a soup.
Do you
Who
think
are
it's
those-
closer to a stew?
Who are those
Yeah.
people?
Oh
Right.
wow, a stew.
Oh, stew like a chili.
Yeah, like chili,
Stugotz?
beef stew.
A beef
Depending on
stew,
the
yeah.
consistency, if the chili's a little bit on the thin side, you could argue that's a soup.
I love an Italian wedding soup. I'm so jealous that you had one
Oh,
because
yeah, so
it anything goes with that thing. It's just
Yeah.
crazy.
Tiny
minestrone.
pastas.
Tiny pasta, it's a mixed match.
That's
Love tiny
honestly the
pasta.
biggest game. If your soup has a little tiny
Tiny
pasta in
pasta.
it, I love it.
Chicken and
So
stars.
good.
Sometimes you can throw rice in there too.
Oh yeah.
Really?
Let's get nuts.
But you
It's a wedding.
But how come you don't make that soup? Like you control the soup that you make and then eat. So
To
if
me,
you love
there-
it so much,
To
I mean,
me, like your imagination is the only thing that can limit you when it comes to Italian wedding soup.
is that right?
Yeah. There's spaghetti. There's rigatoni.
I don't want spaghetti in my soup.
Dude, I can do whatever with it. It's my wedding.
It's your soup.
Chicken noodle. I mean, that's basically chopped up spaghetti.
I mean, chicken noodle is right. It's like of a medal stand of soups. Chicken noodle would be the gold medal winner, right?
I don't know if I'm putting it on a medal stand, but I'd say it's like in the Hall of Fame.
A soup hall of fame.
Yeah, it would be.
Wow.
French
Yeah,
onions
first
got
ballot.
in
A
there. yeah.
little coconut milk in that thing. You kidding me?
Oh, make it a curry?
The
Tom
best,
Kakai.
the best tiny pasta for soup is ditalini. I don't know if any of you have had that. It's so tiny, it's wonderful.
I know exactly what you're talking about. It's like the little tubes,
Yes,
right?
but
the
tiny.
little tiny tubes.
Yeah.
We're the only ones. Yeah.
Yeah, but ditalini is an objectively hilarious name
Anyone?
for a pasta.
Does anyone
weird
agree
word.
with me that French onion soup's a little overrated?
It is
How
overrated.
dare you?
Once you
No.
get past
Nope.
the,
I
No.
disagree.
once you
So-
get past the
I
cheese,
disrespect
It's
I
hard to
disagree.
eat. It's
It's
like
great.
I gotta get my hand involved.
You're
Soup
getting
Hall
it
of
just for the
Famer,
cheese.
First ballot.
I have to like
Hall of Famer.
Possibly my
First
favorite.
ballot.
I have to
Hall
like
of Famer.
rip pieces of
Unanimous.
cheese off and then like put it on top of the my hands.
It's overrated,
Have
yeah.
to get too involved.
I'm not gonna-
I don't want my hands.
I don't have
involved
to
with
defend
the
it just
soup.
because you're bad at eating it.
Yeah,
I would say
exactly.
the cheese is a Hall of Famer. The soup
Let me
itself
see
is
you
not.
eat it without
No.
using your hands.
I would gladly let you watch me eat French onion soup.
Yeah, bring it on
I
over.
guarantee
I can step up to the challenge.
You are full of it if you're not using your left hand to like rip off some of the cheese.
So what if I do?
I'm just saying that's
So
gross.
what if I do? That's part of the charm.
But I'm
But
just
once
saying,
you get
it
to
goes
the
right
broth,
back into the soup.
once you
just-
get to the broth, it's nasty.
acted
The
like
broth is
What?
nasty.
like
It's
it.
an onion
It's
sauce.
my
What are you
soup.
talking about?
It's my soup.
No, the broth is fine.
Fine.
Oh my
Excellent.
God.
Hall of Fame
broths.
soup.
Unbelievable.
This is ridiculous.
Yeah, ridiculous.
I shouldn't need my extra hand involved to eat soup.
Oh, stop it.
Yeah, receiver.